Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMails24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Good, just getting ready for work.
Hey, do any ballers come into Discord anymore? Like even after the show and after the after show, do they still come in once in a while?
Not that I've heard, but they're all over the YouTube comments. I get in YouTube fights all the time.
So they've reduced themselves to just comments. No more
Yeah,
live
that's all they
people.
can do. They're too scared to join in real life.
Or they all meet up at Gem Pandas. I've noticed that too.
Have not listened to him recently.
A couple of weeks ago or last week, maybe when Nathan's computer was down and he was waiting on his amps, I stumbled in there on a Saturday just to see what was going on. And yeah, all the usual suspects that were once here and got their asses handed to them. No, they didn't believe in flat Earth or even come to not even believe, accept what reality is. So they all went over to Gem Pandas and they pat each other on the back. What a great job they did.
Nope, typical.
Hey, Nathan, you there? You busy? That means he's busy. So on QE's show yesterday, he was going over, and I'll say it, flat Earth proof. Even though Nathan believes that the only one he can stand on is celestial navigation, QE had a few of them yesterday. I thought we could actually say proof of flat Earth and not just the
Like
debunking
what?
of a globe.
Like what?
The
What do you have?
Bolivian salt flats and the I forgot the name of that missile he was talking about. Hello, what's up, Paul? Paul, what was that missile he was saying yesterday? The Sea Sparrow, what is it?
Yeah, it is the Sea Sparrow missile, I think, and at Mark II or something. Can't work on a curved ocean, certainly.
Yeah, so in other words, it's not just debunking the globe anymore, which is easy. It's now we have proofs. We've always had proofs.
And funny Dutch sayings as well. Don't forget that now. That was a bit of a segue.
That was hysterical. And you know what happened, Paul? I was a lot of times I couldn't hear. So listen back to the show yesterday. Everything I said, you said 10 minutes earlier. But I had no clue you were talking about like a gift toss in the mouth or Monday morning quarterback. I had no idea. You were just talking about something I said. It sounds like Monday morning quarterback. But I listened back, and that's what QE said 10 minutes before I said it.
Yeah, it was a good show, I think. Entertaining and informative, which is always a good mix.
How'd you like my information about the gerbils and Richard Gere?
Yeah, I linked you to that South Park episode. They did a whole episode about that, I think.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, I linked in Master D is in there.
Yeah, that was it. That was a story that went around back in the 70s and 80s. Used to get these stories that would go around like Rod Stewart passed out and they found 8 ounces of male sperm in him. 8 ounces of male sperm. Do you know how much that is? But these freaking rumors go around and they become law. And actually, I don't think they even ever happened. I don't know about the gerbils. That one sounds pretty legit.
I posted it again in Master D as Lemmy Winks, I think was the name of the gerbil in the South Park episode.
I can't get to it now. I'm going to have to check it out later. So, would they go over it? That must be hysterical.
Well, I posted a link to the new Hibbler Productions film in Master D, Level With Me. Because I think we should actually watch it and maybe review it on the show. Who knows? It is quite long, though. But we'll probably do. I don't know if Flatsoid's going to do a review of it, or maybe Hammer would want to at some point. I think Eddie Bravo's on it, and the usual people from the last ones.
We can do that today if you want to, instead of doing the just based on, I don't know if it's because of the overt censorship that we suffer, or if people are just losing interest in me covering the Wired Witch. But like I said in the after show yesterday, for me, it's one of the finest examples of how heliocentric brainwashing works, hence me sticking with it for such a long period. We're on like show 5 talking about the Wired Witch.
I think it's worth completing. Like you say, it is a good sort of transition to show you all the nonsense.
Is this Hibbler Productions going to be load of nonsense too?
I haven't seen it. I'm not sure if the free version is out yet.
Oh, really? So it's not really reasonable if it's not out for free for us to critique it, is it?
Yeah, possibly not. I do the Wired Witch, and I just put it in Master D so everyone on the panel can watch it if they want to.
I see. Fair enough.
Talking about getting him to do a documentary with us.
About what?
Want to get a documentary.
Well, I don't know if Sean Hibbler has ever actually heard FED and the arguments. He's heard of you, Nathan, from David Weiss and Jaron, but I don't know if he's ever watched the show.
They'd have been telling him that they don't watch and how we're a science scamming organisation.
But he does make movie quality documentaries, so it would be good to have him on board, or someone like him.
I don't know what we'd have to offer to a documentary maker in that regard. I mean, we debate people. That's it, really. What's there to make a documentary about?
Well, I mean,
Okay,
say
hold
you
on,
put
hold
the
on.
housekeeping questions in that sort of format, and you get tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people to watch it as they do the other films that he's produced. You know, that would be one way of getting the message out there. You'd probably get more followers and more members on YouTube, I would imagine.
I totally understand what's in it for me, but I'm saying, in terms of if you were a documentary maker and you came across a debate show, I can't imagine being that documentary maker going, oh, there's loads of meat on this bone for me to make material from. The meat's been stripped by me to make the material we make. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, maybe there's a
That's not what I'm talking about.
documentary
We want a
worth of stuff.
document. Sorry, we want a documentary that. Let's see, how can I explain this? The last documentary done made fools of flat earthers. They will never be able to, with the celestial navigation, the black swan, and the stuff that we have, they'll never be able to say, thanks for proving the round earth, Nathan. That's why we want a documentary. Real proofs.
Okay.
Just talking about that wild witch and the way she's manipulating the children. You know, it would be so interesting to see somebody explaining to that the same child, if she was indoctrinated, about what we're talking about the actual nature of the earth, and see how the child responds to that. You know, about it's impossible to have an area called out, and you know, tell about the space and the vacuum of space, and how gravity cannot be proven because it's never been observed. And you can probably see the child will.
Just bring up gas pressure without containment.
Or give them a helium balloon.
Exactly, and explain to them as you're feuding this wild witch of the west, wicked witch of the west, but you can call her wild too.
And the child just can't, they can't comprehend it. Like I said, they're just going into this fantasy fucking world, which it is. But if you told them what was really happening, then it's just so obvious and natural and, you know, true. Nothing.
It depends, because my grandson was told when I started bringing some stuff up to him, just, talking about the horizon and space and containment. He said, "Uh-oh, my teacher told me this was going to happen." But this was about 3 or 4 years ago. So they're being warned in school that flat earthers are going to come, and this is how you answer them.
Wow.
Oh, that's what they're being taught, right? That's how they're being educated. So they can face the world as blue or white collar workers and do the do after they've been trained on how to do the do. They're not being trained on how to think, or how to
Right.
employ reasoning skills or logic. That's not what kids are being taught. Here's the answer. What's that? Flat Earth? Here's the answer. This is what you say to him. Repeat after me.
Yeah, but the scary thing was, as I was explaining it to him, the end result was him saying, "No, Earth is round and that's it." So it's like, wow. How did he say it? Earth is round and that's it, and space is real. Yes, that's what he said. This was when he was about 6 or 7 years old.
Okay. Fair enough.
Well, that's what the formative years are, isn't it? I think it's 1 till 7. It's called your formative years, and it's all to do with giving the format. That's like a computer. Nathan will know more than that. It's, it's the format. That's what the inputting into you at that age. That's why it's called your formative years, and that's why it's used in computing. It has a similar ring to it. That's where they get them in them years. And once they've done that, it's hard to get out of it, then, isn't it?
Yeah, they're teaching them how to chant real early.
Yeah.
Yeah, format them. Give them the formatting in the formative years of all the bullshit.
Yeah, hopefully we'll round out that video today.
I think it's been good. I've been out and about this week, but I've caught a lot of it. But I've watched some of it and listened to some of it. It's dreadful to see and listen to and watch her do what she's doing. But on the other hand, yeah, it's good, and it's good we've kept it on, or you've kept it on, Nathan. But it is repetitive, isn't it? Sometimes you're thinking it's just the same old fucking bullshit they're going over all the time, just constant bullshit.
Well, that's my concern. Maybe I'll ask the live audience: is it, you know, because there's a decline in the numbers while I'm simultaneously saying, oh, we're at the bottom of all the crap lists now. So is it the case that the people who are watching are losing interest because we've covered it lots? Or it's always the way with passion projects. Whenever you get behind something that you're like super keen to cover, it always gets the least interest. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just drawing false correlations, but that's how it seems.
I think I have, but I mean, I'm on here most times. But yeah, it might be different for a viewer. I'm finding that now a little bit. Oh, come on, I'm sick of fucking hearing this. But I think it was really good to see that particular one with her and how the children are being brainwashed is fantastic. But you know, is it good to repeat it and keep going over it and drum it in, or like you say?
Well, it's different because it's a different stage each time. It is very much a new slate every time she starts with a new student, or in the case now with a colleague. You know, it's a fresh slate for her indoctrination and discussions on the thoughts of gravity and the heliocentric indoctrination. So yesterday, I mean, I just can't think of a world where we didn't cover the stuff that we covered. Yeah, I don't often do straw polls in shows, but I did yesterday. But yeah, it's got really low viewing numbers, which is just heartbreaking. But there we go. When it's close to your heart and important to you, in this case, indoctrinating children, that to me should be a standout subject. But as with anything you get behind, that you're really, like I just said, keen to disseminate to an audience. Yeah, right, really low numbers on that one. Wonderful. But we'll plough through to the end anyway. Adam said he's got a parody, so hopefully he'll turn up, and if we can plough through the last 10 or 15 minutes in the hour show. Let's just keep the housekeeping relatively concise so we can blast our way through this video.
So
Just
let's
answer with a
practice.
no then.
Any evidence of the Earth-based Coriolis? No.
Yeah, that's
next.
too keen. Before the live show start, too keen.
No, it was a joke.
No joking matter. I've now got 2 light switches rather than just one.
Hey Nathan.
Yep.
I looked at a few. I saw a couple of Toyotas, like on the side of the road.
Really? No way.
Listen to this though. You're talking 15 years old,
Wow.
almost 200,000 miles on them, and they're still asking for $9,000-$10,000 for these cars in the States.
Yeah,
It's insane.
Nuts. Your second-hand market's really bizarre. But on the other hand, it's bizarre other than the fact that stuff that's good retains its value. Here, it doesn't matter if it's got 100,000 miles on the clock. It's going to be cheap. Doesn't matter if it's an Audi. In fact, if it's an Audi, it's going to be cheaper. But Toyotas don't suddenly hold their value. They're still a mid-range car here.
Yeah, but they hold their value in the States.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
That's why I bought one, because I was like, right, so somewhere they're recognised as being really good quality if they're built in Japan. Here they're not. I'll have one here, nice and cheap. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, hey Nathan. The Toyotas in America and the Toyotas here and in Britain are different Toyotas.
Not necessarily.
The Toyota in America, it is. I drove Toyotas here and I drove Toyotas in America. And okay, the Toyotas here, the newer ones are are starting to be of a better quality, more like the Americans and the Japanese Toyotas.
Right.
But what we were getting for years, the Corolla, I mean, that was like a Coke can. You couldn't
Yeah,
tip
but
off it
Brian-
without it being
Yeah,
dented.
if they're made in Japan, they're good. That's all you want. One that's made in Japan. Simple.
Right.
Th-
I
Them,
worked for a guy.
them Toyota
Hold on, I worked for a-
Coriolis seem to drift a little bit to the right.
Listen, I worked for a guy, and he passed the Toyota Corolla down to 3 of his kids. It had over 500,000 miles on it and was still kicking.
Yeah, but I had Corolla before, right? And the engine will go forever. But the problem with them is that they're not built strong. So they put a lot of light materials around the engine to keep the engine going, and it'll move fast. I mean, it'll take off fast and move fast and all that, but only because it's so light. Because if a kid on a bicycle cycles into it, you need a new door.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Paul, Neil, Brian, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello,
Good
hello,
afternoon.
hello.
Hello.
Hello, good to have you all.
Buenos días.
That's yes. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
No, next.
Any
It's
evidence?
only in the maths.
Yes,
literally.
below surface level.
Below surface level.
Indeed.
In my
Any
mind.
Any evidence of
In my
axial?
mind.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Negative, next.
No.
Not according to pilots, aircraft pilots.
In my mind.
In the math?
And you need a radius for that, which they do not have.
Yes, you will. You will
Some
indeed.
globe believers
need a
say
geometric horizon
gyroscopes
for that.
prove it.
We're all too keen. Go ahead, Rondek.
I'm just saying some of these globe believers are telling us that a gyroscope can prove that the Earth spins for some strange reason.
Well, they won't actually make any solid claim about that. They just say the gyroscope proves this, and you ask them several different questions concerning it, and they'll give you all different answers because they don't have an actual consistent answer. They all have different answers because they all have different opinions because they all have a lot of nothing as evidence for their claim.
Shout out to Phoenix Rising 86 for joining as a penguin. Check out the latest video. Broken Men of the Globe. Specifically Glenn Williamson. Latest members video. I don't know when I'm going to release it, but I'll release it at some point to the public. But if you're a member, you can check it out now.
Nathan, it's
Yes.
so bad that the AI, FE Criterion, posted the AI. He screenshot it. AI is even saying that the spherical Earth is true and you can see it in space, and there's scientific evidence, which is that they saw it in space. So the whole system is totally just rotted to the core.
Yep.
I'm sick of this AI. I mean, people are going about this AI as if it's something new. It's just it's just the same indoctrination you find on Google and everywhere else,
Right.
in a different form.
Indeed. You can check out my AI interaction videos if you want to see us, or me specifically, arguing back and forth with AI, catching it out in lies and doublespeak and contradictions. Anyway, hopefully the last time. It may be the last time anyway, because I suspect people are getting bored of us covering this. But I want to stress the importance of why we've covered this. In my humble opinion, to date, this is the best video we have responded to, bar none, because it summarises the position as far as heliocentric belief is concerned, from cradle all the way through to this one-on-one discussion between colleagues about the nonsense dissemination of gravity to the kiddies. So that's what we're going to plough our way through. And I want you to share it. I want this show to go out to more people so they can hear this. This is, in my opinion, the most worthy thing we've done on the show to date, because it really does educate the audience in terms of how you, and if indeed your children are currently going through the education system, your children are being brainwashed. Not only that, the fact that the people brainwashing them know damn well they are doing it. They know it's nonsense.
Add the waves together.
Hello, Adam. Hello, Armin.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Yeah,
any two states.
Yeah, we hear you.
Hello?
we
Any
hear
two
you.
possible states of the world, you can just literally put a plus sign between them. And that's a sensible state. That's a good state. It makes sense.
So do you think that there's some sense in which we shouldn't be thinking about individual universes, individual spacetimes, but we should be thinking about superpositions of spacetimes?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you were to go far enough back in the history of the universe, back to when it was very, very dense, very small.
How do you know? You don't know. You can't rewind entropy. You can't figure out what's at the start. And when you get there and ask the question, you end up with an external force, external creator. You don't end up with everything being tiny. You know, this dividing by zero, Big Bang idea of creating everything from nothing violates the first law of thermodynamics. You have nature creating itself.
And when quantum mechanics was certainly important, then it must have been like that. I mean, if we believe that the dawn...
Oh, sorry, because of quantum mechanics, we must believe that things were small at the beginning. Why? Makes no sense at all. The natural phenomenon is diffraction, interference. No inference whatsoever to what he just said. Stealing valor by dropping the words of quantum mechanics in there doesn't mean anything in terms of your scale in the heliocentric model.
Dominant standard model of cosmology, something had to produce the density perturbations, the things that...
Something had to produce it in the model. No, it's just a model. It's a reification fallacy. No, something in the physical realm doesn't have to create something because it's necessitated by your model reification.
Did all the galaxies and stars and us, everything else in the world. So there's a galaxy over there, let's say, and not over there. So how did that happen? Why is there a galaxy there and not there?
Right.
In the standard theory, as you know, that was a quantum event, a random event.
Yeah.
And
Why does he keep saying things like it was a quantum event? Just stealing more valor from quantum mechanics? No. What has been established through cause and effect reasoning with systematic experimentation to give us quantum mechanics has absolutely nothing to do with what you looked at in telescopes. Nothing.
If he had to,
Seems like a Go on, Brian.
Go on, Brian. Then Adam.
you go on, Adam. Go
No, you first, Brian. I'm all for Irish
Okay.
power.
on. Irish lives matter. If you had to define what his statement there, what did he say? A quantum? What did he say? A quantum what? I'm losing it now.
Quantum something
effect?
or other slipped in there for no reason, but go on.
Yeah, no, he just said it. He just said it a second ago. So I'm not making it up. He said
Quantum states.
No, he didn't say no. That's not. No, he said
That's the point I want to address, Brian.
Go on, Adam. You go ahead. I can't remember the exact name in it.
What I just heard there was that previously, if you follow Big Bang Theory, part of the issues they had from a singularity event was the distribution of the galaxies. There's no way you can have a Big Bang event and have the galaxies distributed how they were through standard physics. So what I remember is they've postulated in the past is that you have a different set of physics for the first few microseconds, which allows faster than light and this weird distribution that they can't account for. What he appears to be saying now is, let's hijack that and describe those things now as, well, they have to be quantum events, don't they? So that matter gets there in a quantum way, as opposed to just defying the laws of physics, I think, as it was previously described.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How would he define a quantum event? How would he
I don't
define
think
that?
he is. I think he's repainting existing problems and saying that if we call them quantum, that presents a solution as to why a galaxy is over there, when it should all be dissipating from a central point.
That doesn't mean that it happened there and not there because you flipped a coin. It actually happened in both places. There's got to be a wave function where in one branch of the wave function is a galaxy there and not there, and in the other branch it's the opposite.
So when we're talking about the multiverse or the Big Bang, we are really talking.
So he's incorporating the phenomena that was explained in quantum mechanics by having probability distribution of galaxies. So Adam, well done, man. That was a really concise explanation and called it right just before he said it. So yeah, that's exactly what he's detailing. He's saying if we have a classical explanation for where these items will end up based on the distribution and maths thereof, it would end up here. It isn't, it's over there. However, if we describe it in the early birth of the first law of thermodynamics violation Big Bang explanation of things, we can have a quantum state where it exists as a probability in both places, and for whatever reason, but it's our explanation now, it was over there rather than over here. Well called, Adam.
Talking about gravity ultimately.
Say again?
Just a lucky one, that, I think. But you can smell it. You can smell what they're trying to do. It's not genuine, this conversation, in the first place. It is like it's a pre-prepared paper crack covering, if you know what I mean.
And we're talking about how a theory of gravitation, which we now think of as a theory of space.
If it was a theory to begin with, it had been based on science. We wouldn't now be thinking of it as a theory of anything else, because it would be established based on cause and effect reasoning that had gone through the scientific method and been validated through experimentation. But when she uses the word theory, she means just so a story explanation in maths that's now proven wrong, so now we have a new theory. So, oh right, so that's how it works, is it? No. Your theory, if it was scientific, would have been based on experimentation. That's empirical proof. They don't have that.
Space-time has a quantum explanation, has a quantum paradigm imposed on it that will help us understand.
What is this? How many times can we wrap in the word quantum into our outdated, debunked by quantum mechanics nonsense of heliocentrism? If we wind in the words as many times as possible, it'll seem like quantum mechanics is actually validating heliocentrism. Well, it isn't.
These things, and we don't have that yet. One of the things that I think is so amazing is that the terrains in which we're going to understand quantum gravity are very...
Quantum what now? Quantum gravity? Is this what you told the little kiddies about? Didn't sound like it. It sounded like you told them it was a force, explicitly. Lied to them. Now you're deciding about whether or not quantum gravity is a quote-unquote theory that you might want to have a little look at.
Few, right? It's the Big Bang, because that's where we...
Sorry, remember in the video, in the second video, I think it was, where she agreed when the guy said, I believe that there is space time. And she went, yeah. Well, now she's saying that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Is she not?
At every stage she's told someone something and then in the next stage completely contradicted herself, or interwoven the next nonsense into the old nonsense. Like I say, a very skilled witch.
We know that quantum and gravity both were called into action.
Were they? Sorry, that's a reification fallacy on 2 counts. There was no calling into action of quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics was established through experimentation. Didn't come into action. Quantum mechanics, go! Quantum mechanics, activate! Go on, you're ruining my jokes.
Sorry. Are they in the military? What rank are they?
I don't know. The quantum mechanic rank.
Could you imagine at this point if that guy that's with her there asked her, could you define gravity? What would she say at that point? Because she's already thrown out anything Newtonian and Einsteinian. She's already thrown all that out the window previously. So what would she say now? Define gravity. Well, what could she come up with if she was asked that right now in this conversation? What would she have? Nothing.
At
always.
some point in the future, they're going to discover the belief that they'll discover quantum gravity in these terrains that they're explaining. So as you just said, it's a straight admittance that they now don't know what they believe in, that what they should believe should be quantum, and somewhere they look and search hard enough, they'll find it. But I think we're at the point where they're admitting they don't know anything anymore, and the thing that it should be quantum, but we don't know what that is.
Okay, so as with all of these response videos, I would hope that should they respond to us, they'd put a link to my video. And in that vein, I have shared the love, algorithmically speaking, by putting their link, that's wired, into the live chat, so that you, the audience, can go and let them know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, hopefully with a nice remark about how wonderful their indoctrination is. I mean, how lovely their video is, so that it doesn't get removed. As I say, with the idea being that I would get the same love responded to me, or reciprocated to me, if they were to make a response to our critique of their video. Chance to be a fine thing, but the link is whizzing its way by in the live stream chat now. Let that videographer, Wired, know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And hopefully they'd, like I say, respond in kind.
And there's black holes. One of the most interesting discoveries is, of course, Hawking's discovery. Kick-started a kind of crisis, right, in thinking about why quantum mechanics and gravity were so knocking heads. It was one
Right, so that was a fairly Weasley way of saying, what was that? Knocking heads? What, you mean completely at odds with one another? A minute ago, they were interlaced with words like quantum gravity, but now you're talking about discoveries that show that they knock heads? Yeah, I'd be very intrigued to see what these discoveries are. There aren't any discoveries required. Quantum mechanics debunked this nonsense. That's it. What needs to be discovered? Well, nothing. It was done through systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis. And upon empirical evidence being provided, it debunked a lot of just so stories that preceded it. No, nothing needed to be discovered in regards to the connections. Just the exposition of the debunking it actually represented. That's quantum mechanics versus gravity. It didn't need Hawking to do anything.
Beautiful examples.
Sure, yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful idea.
What, that they knocked heads? She's just said Hawking's ideas exposed how they knocked heads. What a beautiful idea. No, that's a reification fallacy. That scientific validation offered in quantum mechanics isn't butting heads with things. It's not a goat.
So first of all, to be totally...
Shout out to Godzilla37 for the super chat. He says, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Am I doing this right? No, Godzilla, you're not doing it right. The sentiment's there and the thought is all that matters, along with the cash. But ultimately, no. You go to the Wired video, yeah? And then on their video, tell them that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, so that A, people who go to that video can see in the comments that somebody's responded to them, because it says where the respondent, you, the commenter, came from. Me, Nathan Oakley 1980. Or at Nathan Oakley 1980. Ah, well, I'll start incorporating that. So, no. But thank you for the super chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking, it's this game going on with these people and this witch and how she explains it. I mean, they're anthropomorphizing science and quantum mechanics and almost making like a old Greek mythology god spectacle out of it. Like suddenly it's become a thing, a living thing, and then it's at odds with the other science that is also a living thing. So they're like assisting people that thinking about it to, well, anthropomorphize those things into a virtual being, completely convoluting it even further. I'm just this is really standing out to me that's what they're doing.
Really clear that we've never observed Hawking radiation, which is what he predicted directly. I don't think very many people doubt that it's there. But yeah, Hawking discovered
So we never observed it. He predicted it, and we don't doubt that it's there, even though we haven't. Okay, let's just point out something that may not have occurred to these two numpties. In science, a prediction is a hypothesis. It presumes that you have the right cause of the effect you're studying in nature, with the antithesis alongside it called the null, which presumes that your cause won't cause the effect. Null difference, zero difference, null result. So when you perform the method, you get an empirical outcome, because either variation of your assumed cause in your prediction, not Hawking's radiation kind of prediction, like unicorn farts in space kind of prediction, by equivalent. No, not that type of prediction. The type of prediction that says, I think this will cause that. And then you go forth to vary it and see if it causes it. And if it doesn't, you prove you're null. Hence the title of empiricism offered to the scientific method, when testing by experiment, a prediction. Hawkins didn't have that. What he's got is a Nostradamus prediction that will be conjured out of maths at some point, I'm sure. That's what he's really saying. I'm sure this Hawkins radiation will be conjured out of maths into the model at some stage.
Mathematically, that when
he's trying to, or he's doing here. See, because they've just had a kind of crisis where they're banging heads together, which was an admittance of incompatibility. And what appears, what was it, the beautiful idea now, or the thing that might save all this incompatibility, they come up with Hawking radiation. I'll just read the description of it. Hawking radiation is a theoretical blackbody radiation that is theorized to be released outside a black hole's event horizon because of relativistic quantum effects. So now you've got black holes and relativistic quantum effects put together in a theory of a beautiful idea by Hawkins. I asked one question to Google. Has Hawking radiation been found? Hawking radiation has never been observed. But if it exists, the information lost when objects enter a black hole might be carried out of the black hole via this light. This is what this beautiful idea, this premise is, this thing they're clinging on to join these head-clashing topics together.
But all the stuff that they've taught the kiddies, yeah, when it comes to their discussions amongst themselves, they say, we know we've got to have something to do with quantum mechanics in there. Yeah, you're damn right. It's been scientifically validated and aided us in our technological advancements. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to need to incorporate that, given that it's doing work. Yeah, it's been put to work in a reified kind of way, in the respect that it gives us quite a lot of technology that we now use. Yeah. Meanwhile, your heliocentric nonsense that benefits nobody and has absolutely zero practical application whatsoever and has yielded absolutely zero profit in all respects ever, that might survive if you definitely incorporate the quantum mechanical bit that you know is definitely relevant, and you're both going to be nodding about how relevant it's got to be for the future and the ideas that might save your old bullshit that you indoctrinated the previous students with. Okay, so we're all clear. Quantum mechanics, ka-ching, definitely got to have that. The rest of the nonsense might fall in line with it if we incorporate some of these fantastical ideas that haven't been demonstrated or proven. Okay, so we're all clear. They know it's nonsense. They know they were lying to the children. They know.
Have a black hole. It's got an event horizon. It's got a surface, which is a point of no return. If you fall through that surface, no matter what you have, no matter how powerful of a rocket you got.
This is not showing us a black hole. We're talking about the edge of a bent geodesic in space-time as a result of a mass warping the fabric of a fourth dimension. What's this on screen? A 2D representation of a swirl, like a whirlpool, like water going down a drain. This is very much a three-dimensional picture. I do not see space-time. I do not see a bent geodesic in space-time. I do not see an astronomical mass causing an event horizon somewhere where you would experience spaghettification if you were to experience it physically as you reach the end of the edge of the geodesic prior to you being able to escape. Yeah, that isn't what we are seeing. We are seeing a hypnosis wheel. Yeah, you remember when you were a kid and they showed you the cartoon of the guy holding a little wheel and swirling it as they tell you magical stories? That's what this is. Yeah? This is a hypnosis wheel. Because they sure as hell aren't sending you to the fourth dimension with this image, are they? Where's the fourth dimension? Where's the bent geodesic? Where's the event horizon? Where are any of the things that have just been discussed in this image? I just see something hypnotizing people.
Nathan,
I know
they
where they
can't show you. Oh, no, me first. They can't show you fourth dimensional space-time bending. So they're just helping you in assisting the imagination of it as they're explaining it, right? So the visual is not actually a visual representation of space-time bending, but it helps you get into imagining it.
I don't think they're doing that here. I think I alluded to it, all those things that you just described, event horizon. None of it works, does it? None of it works, even in their Einsteinian model. Okay, so what's being postulated with Hawking's radiation is a way to make it work with quantum magic. So instead of trying to do
clarity, sorry to interrupt.
Einsteinian way,
I'm really sorry to interrupt. I know you're in full flow. When you say work, what you mean is be able to equate at the end of the maths, as opposed to like a semiconductor or something that does a physical job. You're not talking about that. I mean, this Einstein stuff's never going to do any work. I mean, I've just done a little rant about zero practical application in the real world and all that. So just want to clarify, when you say work, you mean physically calculate on paper, nothing more. Well, it doesn't even do that.
Does the maths balance and work and then produce the effect it's supposed to be describing? No, it doesn't. It has problems. Because then with all this, they have to invent things, don't they, to fill the mathematical gaps, which that was, standard matter. And they had to add dark matter, because when they do the maths, there's this 70% incorrectness. So they don't bin the maths, they add a strap on to fill that void. And now what appears to be happening here is they've never managed to do that. So the excitement and the beautiful idea is that the mathematical problems at the event horizons at this point of infinite gravity is to introduce a quantum solution so that the particles can come out and go in.
Quick shout out to Matthew Hall. He says, sure as Nathan not getting the full £5, I'm just as sure it's flat. Flat is fact, thumbs up. Observably and measurably. Thank you very much indeed, Matthew Hall, for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Right. So instead of saying it doesn't work, you could say it doesn't balance out, because that would be more specific. And you can't anthropomorphize it as much.
Oh, when you say it seems pedantic, Arwin.
It's a point worth clarifying, but hopefully you understand it. Yeah. So they're switching from this thing again, look. They're keeping black holes. Yeah. Not getting rid of black holes, saying actually that was a load of nonsense that we invented up. We'll keep the black hole, this thing we can't see. Yeah. And to keep it, we'll solve the problems around it, no longer using the way in which we created it. We'll fix the problems with quantum mechanics.
But they told the kiddies about all the problems, didn't they? They didn't just lie through their back teeth and indoctrinate them with totally debunked nonsense that has got problems that need solving. They didn't do that, did they?
Told it was fact, the things they've poo-pooed.
What an outrage.
Light back behind you in the direction you fall from, nothing escapes, not even light. It all gets sucked in and spaghettified and destroyed at the singularity, or something happens, but it doesn't get out.
Or something. I don't know, I've had a lot to drink. So it's going to be anything. It's spaghetti, something.
Something happens, man.
Something happens. You know what I mean? Something happens at the event horizon, spaghettification or something like that.
But in quantum mechanics, you can't really pin down the location of something precisely.
Can you not? Really? My understanding was that understanding which path the light took would give you a collapse of the waveform. That's actualization. What do you mean you can't pinpoint something precisely? Finding out why you can pinpoint it exactly actualization, wave function collapse. Isn't that the point of the quantum mechanics in the first instance? Am I missing something, Adam?
No, yeah. It doesn't mean that bit. They mean a Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which I suppose helps you. If you're trying to compact an infinite amount of matter into a finite amount of space, it would be very helpful in your maths if you could quantum mechanics that so that it could have superposition. So you could then use that to pervert your maths to allow that amount of matter in that amount of space. These are the problems they have, aren't they, in black holes and stuff? It doesn't make sense, does it? So that sounds like what they're doing there to me. Not because, and this is the problem, isn't it? With the two, the head clash, that uncertainty principle that's generated by, you want to know the speed of it and its position. You can have more or less one or the other, but never both. That is at the heart of quantum mechanics, but that is the antithesis of Newtonian and Einsteinian. Things have to have a place and position for them to exert an effect on the space-time field.
Clear as mud.
If you try to pin down an electron in a tiny circuit in a microchip, sometimes you discover that it's not actually there, and then your computer crashes.
This is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. In reality, you can't precisely say...
What? That is not why it would crash. So if you've put into a piece of memory a 1 or a 0, and for the sake of argument, you don't give it enough cycles of electricity to keep it charged to remember that it's containing a 1 or a 0, and as the computer accesses that piece of memory, it accesses it as what it defaults to, which is a 0. But what it was looking for was what was being charged in that position, but lost charge, and was actually a 1. Now, when the CPU gets a 1 instead of a 0, or a 0 instead of a 1, it crashes. But that, in terms of superposition, what's he talking about? You've allocated a piece of information to a piece of memory and then reaccessed it. That's what will cause crashes. In that regard, he's talking about like inside a piece of data in a computer system. There's some sort of uncertainty about it. No, there's only uncertainty if it's looking for a 1 and it gets back a 0 because the memory hasn't stored the information correctly. I won't swear. That particular part of the process has sod all to do with Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Yeah? Only in the fact that it thought it was going to get something it didn't and then it crashed.
It'll just point a bad block of memory. That's
this
all.
is weak.
Paul knows
Where
about
the
computers. Paul, is error code 908? Electron didn't remanifest from quantum state.
Doesn't sound familiar.
What a load of nonsense.
Electron is, and you can't precisely say how quickly it's moving.
Exactly, yeah. So when you get the blue screen of death, that might be because of quantum mechanics.
It might be. More likely you got memory that's not working properly.
You know, you try to pin something down near a black hole. Well, it's a surface. It's got a particular radius for a round black hole. And you want to say something is inside or outside it. Well, you can't absolutely say that in quantum mechanics. And this kind of uncertainty produces...
What? Again, I don't know if I should rehash it. He's just reiterated it to like cement it in the mind's eye of the audience that it's the uncertainty aspect. No. Knowledge of which path collapses the wave function. Now, the wave function itself, what you're studying, the interference pattern, the diffraction pattern, that's your phenomena. Yeah, and the uncertainty aspect of it collapses. Yeah, by variation of what causes that effect. That's knowledge, in this instance, of which path the light went through. Knowing which slit it went through stops it being diffraction. So what are you babbling about? It's just focusing on this uncertainty aspect, because the point of interference when you've got probability distribution is useful to say, as he did earlier, well, that planet, based on our physics, should be over here. It's not, it's over there. But if you think about how quantum mechanics studies things that are in various different positions all at the same time because you've got a probability distribution, it means that it could be over there. Therefore, it's over there. That makes sense now. Check it out. What? Ugh. Right, let's do another shout out.
But Nathan,
Hold on. Just do
uncertainty.
Quick shout out to another shout out to Matthew Hall. He says, I know YouTube take their cut, but if they profit for just owning the platform this video is on, they have more reason to let this channel have the reach. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, I subscribe to that. I respect the platform for what it is. It gives me I was going to say wide audience. Maybe I should change that to it gives me the ability to have a wide audience. But no, I can't really say that either. I mean, there's something positive about it, Matthew, and I definitely do get paid, mainly because of people like you, as opposed to the platform. But maybe you're here just because of that reason, so I should thank the Lord for that. Thank you very much for the super chat. Brian, I'm sorry to labour that. Go ahead.
No worries. I'm just saying the reason that they need to focus on the uncertainty part is because they need uncertainty. They need instability for their model. The model needs to be uncertain and unstable. That's why it can't have a cycle, for instance. They need that. And that's why they're going to focus on. You'll hear a lot more of the uncertainty. You'll hear no end of it.
They're on now what makes them believe what they believe in now, which is this Hawking radiation. That's what he's now about to describe, how this thing forms. Bearing in mind, he'll admit that this thing has never been discovered, measured, or even seen, witnessed. It's just a theoretical concept, a lovely idea from Stephen Hawking. Why is it lovely? Because it saves their face, doesn't it? For admitting they've been talking the crap they've admitted to the kids. But it gives them something to keep researching, doesn't it? As well. But what they're about to describe is the ludicrousness of this. Which is fundamentally what they're now believing in, isn't it?
A radiation, which you can think of as pulling some of the energy out of the black hole. The black hole was formed out of some mass, and there's an energy in that. You can think of pulling some energy out of that and sending it off to infinity in the form of particles being emitted.
Yeah.
And what Hawking found is that it's a thermal spectrum. It looks like a hot or not so hot for a large black hole, but like an oven, the kind of radiation that comes out of a cast iron.
This idea that
Is there any other kind? What's he talking about?
the darkest phenomenon in the universe actually is forced to radiate quantum particles.
What?
So, what they claim this
go on, Adam.
Hawking's radiation is like at the event horizon, you get a quantum formation of a particle, one in which is returned, as he says, sent off at infinite speed into the black hole, and one that escapes the event horizon. But this quantum flux creates uncertainty. And this uncertainty is what creates Hawking radiation. That's the best I've got. I don't understand it, but that's the best I can regurgitate what they're claiming.
Good try. I followed along. I didn't follow along with him. Thank you.
Is pretty wild. I think everyone understood that it was a correct calculation, but I don't think a lot of people understood the implications, that it meant something really terrible was happening, because this black hole, which could have been made of who knows what.
The calculations don't cause the black hole to have some terrible implications. It's back to the death cell yet again. Here we go. There's some awful implications discovered in the maths, reified by us. No, maths isn't causing event horizons in black holes. They're just being invented by tossers.
Is disappearing into these quantum particles, which
disappearing into quantum particles. Adam, what's quanta?
Just a smallish unit.
So when we say quantum, what does that literally mean?
It's meaning smallish unit. There's implications what they're trying to put on, but just in that sense, then that's all it means, really. It's not.
Just means non-divisible particle, right?
Yeah, smallest unit. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Right. That's all it means.
in some sense have nothing to do with the material that went in. So do you think that's a big...
Why did I pause
What
it
it
early?
doesn't mean is multiple universes, which is what they're trying to apply, and on multiple superposition. and division. So it's now in two places at once, which is what they've claimed that this is fundamentally the cause of Hawking radiation.
Right.
It doesn't mean any of that. It's not.
No.
That's not in the field of quantum mechanics either. It's just in the field of made up sticky tape for Einsteinian gravity. That's all it is.
They've looked at a blackboard full of descriptions of quantum mechanics, and they've taken some of the buzzwords off the wall and gone, "Ooh, we'll have that word. That's useful, and we'll have that concept. That's quite useful." Just taking little chunks here and there of descriptions of quantum mechanics. You're like, okay, and now you're going to just imply that, and every time you do, you'll say it's quantum mechanical. It's the importance of the quantum mechanical aspect when we hijack this aspect of it. It's like, okay, so they've taken, all they've really done in this last little section is taken the idea of diffraction. Why is diffraction? Interference. That's all we're talking about. And they've applied that to critical errors in their model in terms of the positioning of the lights in the sky based on every aspect of incorrect nonsense they've been indoctrinating the Western world with for the last couple of 100 years. That's what's happening.
Big crisis. The black hole evaporates. The information is lost.
It's a crisis because of some of the details of it, but I would say the way you just described it, I mean, if I build a big bonfire or an incinerator and I throw an encyclopedia into it, good luck reconstructing what was in that encyclopedia. The information.
Wow. That's an interesting analogy. Wasn't that a bet at some point between two people arguing the toss about quantum mechanical ideas? Presumably what is now going to reference. Or he'll just steal it completely.
Is lost for all practical purposes.
Practical purposes.
Yeah.
So this is a huge crisis because either quantum mechanics is wrong, and as you described, it's the most accurately tested paradigm in the.
So when you say accurately tested being experimentally valid, test in science is an experiment. So you're saying either it's wrong. No, it's gone through an empirical method. It's not that it's wrong. It just doesn't comport with gravity. It doesn't work with your existing nonsense you just brainwashed a whole load of kids into believing was true. So what are you going to question how valid empirical science is as an alternative to whether or not there's a fundamental change needed in the wrong science that you've been peddling? Because it's pseudoscience.
History of physics. How could it be wrong?
It isn't. You are. With the nonsense you peddle to the kids. You know at what stages you're wrong, because you've just told us in the video where you were wrong. But now you're going to question how wrong quantum mechanics is while declaring how tested it is. Yeah, experimentally.
Right? Or the event horizon is letting information out and violating.
Or either it's wrong or the event horizon's letting out information. What's an event horizon? The edge of the bent geodesic in space-time as a result of a mass that's warped it because it's so huge, like a neutron star, but worse, with more density and a thimble full of it, the weight of an entire city, right? Bent geodesics. So we're going to lose information at the event horizon, the point of spaghettification. Or what? Quantum mechanics is wrong. The most tested and useful and provided us with technology. That could be wrong. Or my alternative with spaghettification and event horizons needs modifying. Yeah, why are you teaching this to children? Any of it? It's a bloody outrage, really, isn't it? Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you were finished. Your statement.
That rant could go on indefinitely, Brian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say actually I don't disagree with that. There's certain things they're invoking there. They invoke radiation while invoking also a vacuum. Two things that require containment to exist. You require containment for radiation, and you require containment for a vacuum. So stating that radiation can be detected or moved through a vacuum means nothing, because to even have the vacuum, you require a container. And the same with the radiation. Now, there's another problem. They also invoked information, but their whole heliocentric universe is based on information not existing. The origins of what they're claiming involves no real information, only involves matter and energy. Information is not part of it.
Sure, but they're
Just
trying to
thought that should be
interweave.
pointed out.
I completely agree. Absolutely. It's part of the aspects of debunking heliocentrism with quantum mechanics, but they've got to incorporate quantum mechanics into heliocentrism. So the fact that it's based on information, knowledge of which path, it's informational in nature, supernatural in nature. Well, once you understand that, you've got to incorporate it because it's being used to drive the technology of the day. So who's going to deny it? You know, when you've got plenty of examples of how it's working, not working in mathematics on paper, or in the case of Einstein, not working, but physically providing benefit to an end user. That's a very big distinction.
Well, every time that they make a video or relay any of this information to anyone, they're literally debunking everything that they stand for.
Yeah.
Every time they use information in their lives.
I think that's why we're here. I think that's why we haven't been censored out of all existence. We are here to normalise the withdrawal of heliocentrism from the current paradigm. There's no other reason why we would be tolerable. It's not just because they can't censor us based on us disseminating things that are still used, like celestial navigation. The tide turned with quantum mechanics. We shouldn't be so big-headed as to think that we are somehow causally linked to this. No. But for the fact that we had quantum mechanics discovered scientifically, we wouldn't be here now, today, on YouTube telling people that the Earth is flat. Those two things are directly linked. There'd be no need for a change in paradigm, would there? We could just be censored out of existence. There'd be no consequences at all. As quote-unquote science strive their way to greater discoveries in heliocentrism. You get to quantum mechanics, and very quickly people see profit. It's very quickly put into practical application. It very quickly permeates the world. And a lot of the world and society we have as we know it is based on understandings through quantum mechanics, leaving heliocentrism entirely untenable. Eventually, the levees break. That's where we step in. That's where we come in. And when the levees break, you need a straw man to hold up. You need some scapegoat. And we're it. We're here to be hated as the guard changes, as the paradigm shifts. That's all we're really here for. God, I'm cynical today, aren't I? On the other hand, Flat Earth's great. I love live. Please smash the super chat. Share the show. Woohoo, 100 people watching.
Well, what they do is, even us covering their video here, we're getting drawn into their absolute nonsense. Where Adam and you and me and the rest of the panel and the people out there are trying to, what are they talking about? And before you know it, you're involved in their little fantasy and their little maths and their little nonsense. They don't have any of this. The fact that we're speaking to each other and we understand what we're saying to each other ends all of what they're talking about. What they're talking about cannot exist because it all involves information not existing. That's their paradigm.
Just before you carry on, Nathan, just got a reply. You know, yesterday I posted a comment on Astrophysics Explains Gravity in 5 Levels, the thing we're reviewing. Obviously works because I've had a reply today. So keep doing it, people. Yeah. So as I said, sent that message yesterday. We reviewed your video. I mean, obviously comes back with and failed, but shows it's being looked at. It's having an impact. So keep it up if you can, chat.
So yeah, let them know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. It is as easy as clicking the link that's going by in the video now and just dropping a comment like Adam has done. As simple as we reviewed your video. That is the perfect type of comment. It's not offensive. It doesn't say that they're indoctrinating children. They can find that out when they get here. But there it goes by in the chat as we're speaking. Please let them know. We'll stay live a little bit longer. Although, how long have we been going? We've still got 10 minutes live. But we'll still be live and we'll still be here when you come back after leaving a quick comment. Helping them algorithmically. Benefiting them. As 105 people watch. Hopefully the numbers don't plummet as they all disappear to leave a comment. But it's worth it if they do. So yeah, please leave a comment. Let them know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And maybe they'll leave a link to my video. And send people my direction from their 10 million subscriber-based channel, should they respond to our accusations of witchcraft. No, in all seriousness. Pointing out the lies and nonsense of heliocentrism and gravity. and how their own admission and own words condemn them to the lies they've told to children. That's not up for question. That's a fact. Anyway, let them know. Nathan Oakley or at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
One of the most sacred principles of relativity.
One thing about quantum mechanics is that anytime you have a state of the world and another state of the world, you can literally add them together.
Sorry, when we have a state of the world and another state of the world. Sorry, what have you seen fired through a double slit? You've seen a whole universe fired through those little slits, have you, my friend? What's he talking about, Adam? Any idea? You tend to be the bullshit translator today.
I don't know. He said it twice. He mentioned it earlier as a very good way of viewing mechanics. You can summate things, add them together. I'm not sure what he's getting at. I'm sure it's going to be some, as you say, hijack principle from quantum mechanics that helps keep his model in some beneficial way.
Well, let's find out. Happy joy.
Together and get a third possible state, as crazy as that sounds. And so if you're going to have a quantum theory of gravity, then we can't really talk about there being a black hole or not a black hole, right? Or an event horizon or not, an event horizon. Because we could always take a state that had an event horizon in it and a state that doesn't, or has the event horizon in a slightly different position maybe. And
oh my God.
Yeah,
Right.
you go ahead, take it away.
So I'm right then. So what we're now getting in is into apologetics to explain why that event horizon can be there, and we're going to use quantum mechanics so it could be there and could not be there. And what we see, this is the hijack, isn't it? We've been talking about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle with relation to electrons, photons, whatever. They're talking about it in relation to a black hole, not the path of a particle.
Knowledge of which path? No, not but according to this dude. According to this dude, that's a guy, not a guy on screen, but the guy who's talking with this lady on screen now. Don't want to misgender you. Is what universe is passing through the slit and having a probability distribution. That's what it's describing, right? It is as nonsensical as that. Just take buzzwords from quantum mechanics off the blackboard and put them in the book of heliocentrism. They'll fit in there somewhere.
and add them together. So the existence or position of an event horizon can't possibly be, determined as a fact any more than the position of an electron is determined.
But you've told other children that they're real and that they're definitely there. And you told them how harrowing it would be to go through the process of spaghettification. Ripped apart at the event horizon. Dun, dun, dun! But now, well, I mean, it's unreasonable to discuss whether it's there or it's not there. I mean, no, it not be there. Why not? Well, because when we studied how light behaved, we found that when passing it through a slit, we could get it to interfere. And then when we understood which path it took, it stopped doing that. It was actualized. It behaved as we expected. It went through a slit and just appeared behind the slit, exactly as you'd expect. But no, what that actually translates into in the heliocentric bullshit world is universes with diffraction patterns. Universes in multi-positions. Event horizons here but not here. What a load of nonsense.
So I think that's the loophole.
That's a nice
loophole. What, like a workaround, like a little cheat, a con that you can weasel your way through the problems of heliocentrism. That's the loophole. What's something in law that people would be looking to close because people exploit it? Yeah, that kind of loophole. Yeah, very good choice of words. Very appropriate indeed. Shout out to Uncle Ben, who's just gifted 5 memberships. I don't know how you retrieve them, but, do whatever it is you have to do to retrieve them. And there they all are, retrieved. Thank you very much, Uncle Ben. Really appreciate it. Check out my latest video, The Broken Men of the Globe. Only available to members.
nice way of looking at it, so that you're not actually violating classical relativity.
Like violating understandings and descriptions in maths. You make it sound like it's a big deal. Yeah, who cares? You could literally toss the entire book out and it wouldn't make any difference to anybody's life at all. But you're really concerned about how well they're going to be violated. Yeah, they already have been. Many years ago with quantum mechanics.
Once you're in a regime where the wave function has really peaked around a very well-defined state.
Like the wave function was the phenomena. Yeah, the description of probability distribution is merely the phenomena studied in quantum mechanics. And as we've already identified on at least half a dozen occasions between me and Adam, they're just hijacking a description of an effect that's studied within quantum mechanics. And it's the behaviour of light when traversing a double slit in this particular instance. Now that diffraction pattern is the wave function she's just hijacked, and he's just utilised to put universes through slits so that they can have multiple positions. And then you don't know whether or not you've got an event horizon causing spaghettification or not. It's unreasonable to say you have because you might not. Yet we'll tell the kiddies you definitely have, after telling them that it's a bend geodesic in space-time that isn't a force, after telling them that gravity's a force, pulling them to the ground. Yeah, it's just a long tissue of lies.
That's right. And one of the most exciting developments in the last 10 or 20 years is called holography. And it's called holography because a hologram is a two-dimensional surface that creates a three-dimensional image. It's got sort of...
Wow, so it's so useful for showing people a fourth dimension. You say, look, check out this two-dimensional surface that's got an appearing three-dimensional object on it. It's still not, though, is it? But when you tell people about fourth dimensions of space-time that they can't see because they're only experiencing a three-dimensional world, showing them a hologram's really useful to get that concept across. Wow! Yeah, it is, isn't it? Until someone like us comes along and says, check out this swirly, hypnotising wheel they've put up, whilst telling you about bent geodesics in space-time and event horizons that may or may not be there, but obviously are definitely there if you're indoctrinating a child with it.
3D information built
That's
into
like witchcraft. That's proper bad, isn't it? That's like going up to some primitive in South America, holding up a mirror and say, look, I've captured your soul. Look in that hologram on my debit card. Look, there's a fourth dimension, children. Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
It's again, that's abuse.
Yeah, look at my hologram. It's a clever magic trick because if you understand that this is only a two-dimensional surface, but yet it appears three-dimensional, you can understand how we've got a fourth dimension called space-time that bends, that causes imminent death if you get near an event horizon. Be afraid.
And this in a
Can I say
fundamental way.
something?
Yeah,
Quickly.
maybe. Depends.
Very quickly. Yeah, well, I tried to come in earlier on this, but I was busy. What they're saying is very, 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 very clear to me. It's all relative because it's not relative. If you think about what they're saying, you have to throw out relativity, but they're still trying to say it's all relative through the use of the uncertainty element within quantum mechanics.
Wait, say that again?
It's all relative because it's not relative.
It's all relative because it's got it's all relative because it's got superposition.
It really has that three or higher dimensional information built into it.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
So what's higher dimensional information? You mean 4D space-time built into it? Sorry, where was that built into quantum mechanics exactly? I didn't see any 4D space-time. I just saw a diffraction pattern. And then, lo and behold, scientists much smarter than you two numpties figured out the cause of that effect by varying the knowledge of which path the information went through. Yeah? Which path the light traversed. Yeah?
As this theory of gravity.
There is no theory of gravity, unlike quantum mechanics.
More dimensions.
Yes.
More dimension. Oh, it is that higher fourth dimensional reified space-time bending to cause spaghettification that may or may not be there. Really, really.
So one of the things I like to think about with holography is that I can pack a certain amount of information in a black hole. I mean, you can literally think...
Can you? Show me. How much can you cram in there, my love? Do you want to show us? Do you want to give it us in grams? Maybe give us it in kilobytes. How many kilobytes can you squeeze into a black hole, my love? How tight's your black hole?
Things into it. Let's say I have information in some volume and I'm...
Yeah, okay, let's say you've got a terabyte. Where are you going to put it in a black hole? What's the receptacle? Does it use USB?
This is
Under
quite
the...
interesting use of language again. What's a black hole? Is where infinite matter. Now, we're no longer using the term matter, are we? We're using the term information now. I'm not sure why. There must be some underlying premise. Probably so you don't have to treat it as matter mathematically. But it's interesting that she switched to that word. Remember that to the child, mass attracts mass. To the children, the old child, a black hole was infinite mass. Now it's information. Not sure why, but I'm sure we'll
illusion
find
that
out.
I can just keep packing information in that volume as much as the volume will contain. Eventually,
Containment, volume, and containment. Yeah, it's interesting you should talk about that, given that the heliocentric model that this is trying to salvage is now referencing containment and volume. See, there's certain thermodynamic laws that are violated with containment and volume, namely gas law, and how it behaves in terms of its entropic effects that it would be experiencing as it traversed the volume of space, leaving us with no gas to breathe. Very interesting terminology you got there when talking about black holes.
I'll make a black hole, and I'll find out that the maximum amount of information I can pack into.
How will you find that out? How are you going to find out the maximum amount of information you can pack into that black hole, my love? How are you going to do that? You want to show me? Yeah? I'll be intrigued to watch. Let's all watch.
Anything in the entire universe is what I can pack on the area.
Oh, really? Can you? Wow, you sound like a god. This chick thinks she can pack universes into black holes. That's what she's just said. Really? You're not a god. Yeah, you're a child abuser. That's what you actually are. You think you're a god. It's disgraceful. I said it before and I'll say it again. In years gone by, you'd be burnt as a witch. But you think you're a god, don't you? Packing universes into black holes.
Right? And since area is projecting
Only
the
on,
illusion.
this is a 3-dimensional packing that she's now said I can pack on the area, which is 2-dimensional. So I'm not. That's something in a formula that they're just nodding at each other about. Oh, that's right. When you're packing black holes, of course, you don't pack into 3 dimensions. You only pack into 2 of the area.
Illusion may be a volume. Maybe the whole world is just a hologram. It's not a principle that only applies to black holes. It's saying that if this theory of quantum gravity is correct.
Sorry, if. In a scientific hypothesis, the if statement is your supposition of cause yet to be validated, aka your independent variable. The if statement is if this supposition of cause is varied, then it will cause the effect. Whereas you're saying, if my entire theory... No, that's not how science works. If independent variable, then dependent variable is known as a scientific prediction. Oh, you've got a very different idea about what prediction is, haven't you, love? Yeah. Hawking. Yeah, when he babbles nonsense through a telly speaker. That's a prediction, isn't it, love? Definitely not. No, scientific predictions have the cause, suppose, for an effect you're studying. Yeah, for you. If statements, if theory. If the theory turns out to be true. No, theories come after empirical evidence. That's what you get, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a heliocentrist. This is the standard you get. If my total nonsense made upon the spot's just so story, then... No, that's not how it works.
Then this whole 3-dimensionality is an utter illusion.
All right. That's a very world-encompassing statement that you've just made there with an if and then. You see, in science, it would be much more narrow. You'd have to vary something to prove an effect. Yeah? To have a theory, you've got none of it. None!
Just
lies for
rewind.
kids. Go ahead.
Sorry. Can you just rewind 5 seconds and just hear this statement?
It's not a principle that only applies to black holes. It's saying that if this theory of quantum gravity is correct, then this whole 3-dimensionality is an utter illusion.
Yeah, Adam.
Wow. Let it finish. Let it finish.
And really, the universe is 2-dimensional.
There you go. Really, we're a hologram. If the maths we're applying to keep this black hole together using quantum stuff, and we pack a black hole in 2 dimensions, then it means the universe isn't 3-dimensional. It's 2-dimensional. That is just gibberish.
That's
Or, of course,
crazy.
it's all wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, or it's all nonsense.
And as practically speaking, you mentioned before in our conversation that it's really interesting, the
embarrassed
Heisenberg
laugh.
uncertainty.
Yeah. Embarrassing laugh, exactly.
principle is a practical limit now on microchips.
Yeah.
Right? If we make microchips much smaller than they already are, even as they already are,
Is this like the disclaimers? Yeah, let's just get out of the way the actual practical application of the science behind quantum mechanics. The stuff that's not going away, the stuff that's being put to use. Yeah? Okay, yeah, we got that. Yeah, that's why you definitely need to be incorporating it into your heliocentric wizardry. Now show me one single example of a practical thing that someone can physically lay their hands out on that has come as a result of any heliocentric indoctrination. Name one thing.
I can think of one thing that they need to be careful of from what they've claimed in this show from their new theory. Because he's saying making microchips smaller and smaller. That means, according to a previous claim, if they made them so small, you could pack so much information into them that it would form a black hole. Not my claim, but hers, if you listen to it.
Should we not giggle eccentrically afterwards?
it causes errors because you don't know that the electrons in. If holography, if this limit on how much information you can ever pack, if that ever became a limit, as far as we know, that's an absolute limit, right?
Right. If the limit described in holography, if that ever became a limit, so you're saying it's not really a limit. The limit described in holography isn't a limit at all, but if it did become a limit, the limit described, why is it described as a limit if it's not really a limit? But if it did become a limit, you two double-speaking clowns are an embarrassment.
Right, we started off with clay tablets, not so much information per cubic centimeter or whatever. Then we had written stuff that's getting better, encyclopedias with thin paper that's even better, CDs.
Right, the smaller and smaller space, trying to pack a denser and denser information, eventually we'd make a black hole.
Yeah, at some point.
You called it.
Shit the bed. I was joking, though, taking the mick out of what they'd said. And actually, they followed that logical path themselves. Oh, my God. And they don't realise they're done now.
Fill up your encyclopedia.
There's that embarrassing laugh again. If we follow our logic to its sensible conclusion, then the more you can pack into this, then the more likely it is to form imminent death for us all. Yeah.
I was actually joking, Nathan.
Just admit imminent doom and move on. Carry on.
What we like.
With knowledge.
Did you like the way they detailed?
Yeah, Brian.
I was going to say, did you like the way they detailed information from their Stone Age, which debunks all their heliocentric claims?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's saying
encyclopedias going at them,
because they could only fit a shopping list on their clay tablet, right? That actually, if you can put a quadrillion shopping lists on a microchip, it will make a black hole. That's what they're saying. I'm astounded that I was taking the piss and they actually then claimed it, and they're discussing it now like they're intellectual. That's
the stuff that we take the piss out of, they literally will chant as rhetoric. Mad, isn't it? We've had it happen many a time on Flat Earth Debate where we will take the piss out of some perspective that they're going to take preemptively, and then 6 months down the line someone will literally take that approach, normally trimmed out and played back at their own embarrassment, like, I don't know, unorthodox talking about the diffraction limit when something disappears before the horizon.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and when you say it like that, it kind of sounds a little bit silly then.
It's because it is. Please share the show if you're watching. Obviously, as always, go to this video, let them know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Still 100 people watching. Be great to get a few more people watching as we're going to extend this live show because I want to round out. I don't want to do another Wired Witch episode. And we've still got a fair bit of video to go, maybe 5-10 minutes left. Well, 5 minutes left. So yeah, we are going to extend this live show till we plough through till the end. So please smash that share button. Be great to get a few more people watching.
By a black hole.
So, exactly. And the most knowledge you could ever have would only be on a two-dimensional surface.
Right, and as big as the universe, and then you're done.
Yeah.
So,
on a two-dimensional surface and as big as the universe. How can they talk to each other in this way with a straight face?
Not likely that we're going to hit that limit anytime soon.
Do you think it's possible that
limit of small size, massive data?
Gravity is really ultimately just quantum mechanics and
no, it's not. Is gravity just quantum mechanics? Would it be okay if we just literally called quantum mechanics gravity? Do you think anyone would notice? Is that what she's postulating? No, love. No. They're fundamentally different.
And doesn't exist at all in the fundamental ways that we've been talking about so far. Like that gravity is really ultimately just quantum mechanics and doesn't exist at all in the fundamental ways that we've been talking about so far.
OMG. So could it be that every word that we have criticized her for and mentioned alongside quantum mechanical explanations for the debunkings is now being disseminated by her in conversation on the very same video? In other words, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, she has just validated every single critique we have made of her in one sentence. Not only that, she has demonstrated beyond doubt that she knows every word she said to the students was wrong. She knows it. This is disgraceful.
She's like the Wizard of Oz, and instead of Toto, she just pulled back the curtain for a second, like, haha, and then hopefully everybody didn't see that.
She's pulling back the curtain and asking Dorothy if it's okay.
Right.
Like the Newtonian way and the space-time way, that those are just these kind of macroscopic illusions.
Well, like, not real? Not forces, then? If they're macroscopic illusions, how the hell have you got the audacity to tell a small child it's a force? You complete witch! You make my blood boil.
And sometimes I talk about it in terms of...
I should be rejoicing. I should be so elated. She's giving me what exactly I want. I'd be annoyed if it wasn't, oh, why can't she at the end of this confess? Why can't she just admit that it's all nonsense she's disseminated to the children? She has! That makes me even more angry, because it means she's complicit. She knows.
Temperature is not a thing. There's no single thing.
Please share the show. If you can't tell by my disdain, this is a bit of a passion project. You know, I hold the same disdain for this woman as I do for teachers. Yeah? The Matthew Learns guy and Conspiracy Cats, teachers, right? When they're like this, they should know better, right? This woman knows what she knows is wrong and is more than happy to put it out there on camera for 10 million people. You know, the audacity is just so off the scale. So please smash the share button. I want people to hear this. Anybody got any comments while I get my composure?
I think if you can just rewind it, because we've already said, she's about to say, it looks like, make an analogy. There is no single thing called temperature. I want to just hear what she's going to say on this.
Gravity is really ultimately just quantum mechanics and doesn't exist at all in the fundamental ways that we've been talking about so far. So that gravity is really ultimately just quantum mechanics and doesn't exist at all in the fundamental ways that we've been talking about so far, like the Newtonian way and the space-time way, that those are just these kind of macroscopic illusions. And sometimes I talk about it in terms of temperature. Temperature is not a thing. There's no single thing called temperature, right? It's a...
What other than temperature?
What?
This is a witch now telling you temperature isn't real. My nonsense that's debunked by quantum mechanics isn't really real, and I'm questioning its validity. But ultimately, cars aren't real also. You know, buildings aren't real. Temperature's not real. Air's not real. That's what she's a flailing witch being burnt. She's dissolving because water's been tossed on her. So everything's not real. Temperature's not real now.
I think she's trying to allude that it's a concept, which if you break it down into individual molecular actions, then you don't have this thing that we experience as temperature. That's what we experience. If we're going to describe it, it's a slightly different thing. I think that's what she's trying to do.
Hold on a second. Are you saying that in the process of attributing a convention to what I actually experience and then term Doppelsklerks, which means my hair's standing on end because it's windy. Yeah, that Dupelskirks isn't real. It's just made up words. Are you telling me that's where she's going?
Yeah, I think she's trying to poo-poo temperature in that it has a conceptual element to it, and therefore it's a macro illusion, I think is the word she's using.
That we experience physically.
Yes, but we experience. And then this is the false analogy that she's now saying that Newtonian and Einsteinian were just, so it's apologetics for lying, were just other macro illusions, so just concepts for you to envisage what's really going off, even though what they're describing isn't in the same way something you experience. They're attributing down, aren't they, as the center of mass and telling you why and all of that's built on or through it. But it's that false analogy that the concept of Newtonian, the concept of Einsteinian is in some way valid to teach because it's analogous to the concept of temperature that is. That's
what
what I think
actually
she's going.
doing as well. Sorry. If you look into, like, just a quick one, if you look into some of the dark occult things and Satanism, this is what she is portraying. If you look into it, she's teaching Satanism in what she's doing to this child.
Yeah, you're going to need to expand on that.
Well, they have teachings in the dark occult, and they have Satanism and satanic groups where they carry out rituals, and they have a method of teaching and teaching things like she's teaching, like things that definitely don't exist, and that there is no God and everything's a mistake. It comes under the teaching of Satanism within the dark occult. That's all I can say for now.
Fair enough.
It's a macroscopic illusion that comes from the collective behavior, really quantum behavior, of random motions of atoms. And is it possible that the whole of gravity...
We don't have random motions of atoms, right? We have the...
No, this is doing exactly what I said.
Okay, well, I'll let it go.
Is like some kind of emergent illusion from what's really quantum phenomena underlying it.
Well, if we buy the idea of holography, then absolutely, that's for sure. That's what it's telling us. Although, which side is the illusion and which side is the reality?
Right.
They're the same.
I mean, temperature's still...
No. This is really irritating. No. The exception to the rule is the diffraction. What we typically experience is actualization, physical reality. That's not what he's just said, though, isn't it? He's just said that it's either or. No, it isn't. You know, it's oversimplifying quantum mechanics in the phenomena only of diffraction to sandwich in his idea of superposition of galaxies. It's just bloody wizardry.
It's worse than that. Right? She's done exactly what I thought, which is to use that temperature analogy. Look, and the line that's on screen where you've paused it is, I mean, temperature is still great to talk about. So what she's done is say temperature isn't just like what our warm it is, it's the random movement of molecules it is. So she's aligning it to the gas particles and the energy imparted in terms of heat energy that you experience, right? But I mean, temperature is still great to talk about. Now do that to gravity, you see? So gravity is still great to talk about. It's a false analogy. We experience, temperature. We don't experience these things in Einsteinian fourth dimension. We do not experience the bending of space-time. It was never there. Yeah? We do experience in a molecular model that those collisions, and we experience it. Yeah? But this is just, like I said, to me, just a justification for why she lied. Yeah. Because I can talk about temperature and actually underpin it with more detail. That's really the same as what we've been doing when we forced Newton, said believe that, then Einstein, then believe that, then ignore both of them and let's go quantum. That's the same analogy or same level of an analogy for learning is what she's implying, I think.
great to talk about. It doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about temperature. I mean, we should absolutely adjust our thermostats and talk about temperature. But if we look at it closer and closer and closer, we realize there's not a thing in the world that has as a quantum value temperature isolated. And so maybe
Again, she's using this term, a quantum value of temperature. What, a non-divisible single quanta of temperature? Why is she fudging this stuff together?
maybe there is no
I
such
didn't know
thing.
that quantum was like a numerical system like that. Since when is that?
It just means non-divisible. It means the smallest thing. That's all it means. It's quanta. But she's using it like it's a catch-all term for a cool aspect of heliocentrism. It's the quantum element aspect of heliocentrism. You're like, what does that mean? That's why I asked Adam to define it earlier, so we're all on the same page when she just throws the word in randomly.
Yeah, but it does sound super sciencey, though, Nathan. So.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds cool.
As gravity isolated from quantum mechanics.
Right. So I guess with the holographic description,
But quantum mechanics doesn't need gravity isolating from it. Yeah. That wasn't what was isolated as control variables when you did experimentation to establish the founding principles of quantum mechanics. You know, it didn't need to be isolated from gravity because it's not real. Nobody said, excuse me, yo, Dave, have you turned on the gravity isolation valve? What's that, Bill? Gravity isolation valve, have you turned it on? No, I haven't, no. Not to worry. It's like, nobody's isolating for this when performing quantum mechanical experimentation. What's she talking about? But as Paul just said, man, does it sound sciencey. Man, does it sound cool.
we've got two sides, which are actually secretly the same. On one side, there's definitely no gravity. On the other side,
What? So there's an alternative to the bullshit that you indoctrinated the kids. On one side of the quantum mechanical diffraction pattern that light's being studied with, we've got a universe with gravity existing. Man, this is a stretch, my friend.
well,
Wasn't that
it's a
just
quantum.
disclaimed?
Yeah.
The gravity part?
In one part, no. In a quantum realm where all things are existing both simultaneously in existence and not in existence, we have one world where there is no gravity. Obviously, leaving the door open, you've got to take away only the bit that affirms your bias, Arwin. The next bit, in the other alternative, the superposition reality of a different galaxy, it does exist. Gravity's real. See how that works? Cool, huh?
So it's more like a multiple universe Marvel style now.
Yeah, but that's why it would be unreasonable to not talk about it, Arwin, because while it's simultaneously not in existence, isn't real, and has been reified out of Einstein's fourth-dimensional mathematics, in the superposition existence of a universe that's gone through a double slit, it does exist. So it's unreasonable to say it doesn't exist when it possibly does on the other side of that double slit when studying light. Because that's quantum. Cool, huh?
But I thought that like all the dimensionality was supposed to be another aspect of the same reality, but now they're literally just splitting alternative realities. Like, you're not supposed to do that, guys. It's just supposed to make it fit, not just split off an
How can I make
alternative
this-
reality that
I'll
doesn't
just-
match.
I'll make it simpler for you personally, Arwin. Imagine you were a fourth dimensional being, right? And as a fourth dimensional being, you reached into a black hole and pulled out a three-dimensional hologram. Now, when I rotated the three-dimensional hologram, you saw quite clearly, as a fourth-dimensional being, the bent geodesics in space-time moving through the three-dimensional hologram. Can you understand where I'm going, Arwin? I mean, if it's not already clearly obvious.
Well, you're going pseudo-Ramonian, yeah, so I get that.
Well, no, I'm not going pseudo-Ramonian. Imagine that you holding up
You're
that...
about geodesics.
No, yeah.
That's
As a
fun.
fourth-dimensional being, I'm easily showing you bent geodesics on a three-dimensional hologram. But for that three-dimensional hologram, they can't experience the fourth-dimensional life that you experience as a being. Kind of like humans can't experience us as fourth-dimensional beings, because we are...
No, I get that.
Right. Now,
This
just
is
going
very
further,
elaborately
Alwyn, there's
talked
more
about.
to it. You're just too impatient. Now imagine that given that you as a three-dimensional hologram, like us as humans, but also fourth dimensional beings. There's fifth dimensional beings that would see us as fourth dimensional holograms. Now, in that fifth dimension, folded once in on itself, if you're following me, there is a superpositional gravity where it is a force. Do you follow me?
Yeah, technically.
It has to be, because if you remember at the beginning of my explanation, I, as a fourth dimensional being, reached into the fourth dimensional black hole to pull out the three-dimensional hologram. Now, therein lay the force that was created in the fifth dimension for the fifth dimensional being that was looking back at us, experiencing a three-dimensional representation of fourth dimensional reality. Now do you understand?
Yeah, I understand
Sounds
it. You made it so
logical to me.
freaking convoluted that everybody's lost track, including me.
You just don't understand. But I can laugh about the
Shut
fact that you
up.
don't understand.
This is that nothing to do with anything. My point is you're separating realities, right? You can say, oh, wow, in this higher dimension, however you're going to organize that dimensionality, right? Einsteinian in this case, yeah, there might be something there, and we're going to call it gravity. But I mean, that still is making the claim it's all connected into one reality, multiple dimensions, one reality. Well, the way that she just described it earlier, like gravity not being there in that approach, which is not another dimension, she didn't invoke it at that time, about the same reality in that field, it doesn't exist. And then she agreed upon that, well, it can basically exist and not exist at the same time, and that's okay. She didn't even invoke like in another dimension.
No, I'm asking
Does
you.
it not
I'm
exist?
inviting you, but conceptually, you're finding it difficult to imagine reaching into that fourth dimensional representation of a black hole in 3 dimensions to pull out the fourth dimensional hologram, so you can understand how a fifth dimensional being would appreciate you in the fourth dimension. Now, like I say, reaching into that bag does involve force. Well, if you don't get that, then there's no hope for you. You just can't conceptualize these things as well as I can. But you'll get there one day. We'll make a video about the progression of bullshit that you need to get to where I understand this and you don't.
Is this what it's like to talk to Baldwin?
Yeah.
A little
Theory
bit.
of gravity, whatever that means. But the point is, you can get it out. It's equivalent to this theory.
Right.
With definitely.
So that's like just saying there's the idea of a dual description is just saying there's a perfect dictionary between these two descriptions.
Yeah.
And so to belabor which one's real is silly. It's like,
Yeah. Obviously, in one world, there's a non-gravity because it completely contradicts all of the principles we've got for our computers and stuff. But on the other hand, in another reality, it's all real. You know what I mean? So it's all perfectly reasonable that I just lied to a load of kids about this stuff.
saying is French real or is English real?
Right.
Just for the point, just so that it isn't lost in my sarcasm. Gravity is debunked by quantum mechanics. That's why this section's the longest. Like, by far, isn't it?
Yeah, an example I like to give is if you take some extra dimensions.
How do we do that? Okay, no worries. I'll take that at face value. How do I take some extra dimensions? Give me a third, fourth, and fifth dimension. I'll take them. What's that?
It's gonna cause inflation, though. Dimension inflation. If you make too many dimensions, you'll have dimension inflation.
Well, I just want to
Gonna
follow
get very
along.
convoluted.
Look, I'm a reasonable viewer, and all the people who've come and watched this video after being told by my truly faithful audience that Nathan Oakley, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, they'll want to follow along in a reasonable manner like we are with this guy now. If you take some extra dimensions, okay, I will take said extra dimensions. Lay them on me. I'm ready. Let's have them. What's that? You can't give them me. You can't show them me. You can't give them any physical properties whatsoever. And we're going to take them. I don't really follow.
And you compactify them. Let's say just one.
I compactify them. Okay.
Petrify a dimension? What does that mean?
I didn't get the dimensions. How am I going to compactify them?
What's happening here?
Right.
Sorry, Arwen. What's happening here is very simple. They're suing for a draw. So they're at the point where they're going, well, gravity could exist, or maybe it couldn't exist, and it does and doesn't exist. That's a draw. That's what they need at this stage because they know they can't get a win. And that's what they're at. They're looking for a draw. What have we dealt with all of these heliocentrists, all the ballers? They always end up, when they can't support their claims, which is every single day, right? They always end up looking for a draw. That's what they end up at.
Okay, hold the phone. Anthony's here to tell us about his LGBTQ member of parliament that he's outraged about or something. Go ahead, Anthony.
What the hell are you talking about?
Right, Tony.
Hey,
Nathan, I've had to look that word up, compactify. Interesting. It's a special made-up word in the world. Compactify.
Ooh, this is magical words from the heliocentric lexicon. Oh, I'm so excited.
To make up or become compact, especially of higher dimensions in space-time.
Oh, it's
To
so it's
become
a specific
tightly
word they
curved
invented
so as
about...
to be unobservable under normal circumstances.
You have to, I rumpus you. Can you read it again? Just one more time. I thought you got to the end.
Right, is that on the... To make or become compact, especially of higher dimensions in space-time. To become tightly curved so as to be unobservable under normal circumstances.
this sounds like Emperor's New Clothes.
Isn't it?
Yes, absolutely correct, Anthony. Emperor's New Clothes.
All that is, it's exactly
Spell
equivalent to
correction doesn't
whatever particles you
recognize
had,
it, by
whatever
the
fields
way.
you had in your original theory before you added it. You just added an infinite tower of new particles with certain properties that are all easy to calculate. For me, it's a question of which description is most useful. I mean, if you want to say gravity is an illusion and it's all quantum, that's great, but then you fall down the stairs and bang your head.
Or release a helium balloon and watch it go up towards the sky. Or look up at the clouds. Yeah? So what? We just fall down the stairs and remember that gravity's pulling us to the centre of Earth? What about the helium balloon that you let go of at the top of the stairs? Did that go down with you? Go boom boom? What about the clouds? What about the cup of tea? Go on, Anthony.
People always forget about the medium. They always reference the balloon or the object, but never reference the medium.
Yeah, fell downstairs
problem,
coming
yeah.
out of a pool. So you're inside the pool, you're on the stairs, and then you fall off the stairs, the bottom rung of the stairs. Yeah, and then you go up, right? You start floating. Isn't that nuts? His example with stairs? Oh, yeah, medium specific. Well called, Anthony.
Yeah, but that's not the problem. Well, it is the problem. Anthony is 100% correct.
But it's worse.
But the problem here is what he said, the secondary problem, is they already threw out the things falling due to a force of attraction. That was thrown out 108 years ago. Now they're throwing out the Earth rising up to meet things as they don't fall, as they sit relative in counter space, let's just say, right? They've thrown out both those things. So you falling down the stairs has absolutely no relevance whatsoever on anything they want to claim after this point.
It does. It proves gravity exists. That's a PhD
That's it.
bloke, and that's what he cites to support gravity still. Huh. You fall down the stairs and bang your head. Suddenly you remember
This is a
gravity's real.
perfect example of training the audience how to behave. Go through it in ever more complicated, convoluted steps of nonsense. And when you get to the end, and it all falls apart, and you're questioning whether or not bent geodesics in counter space reality with superposition universes going through slits, when you've got to that stage, just remember, you fall down, like you were told as a child. So go full circle and assert, yeah, well, we still fall down at the end. So then you can start the entire process again. You can start talking about Newton and things falling towards the mass of Earth, and you can go through the entire circle all over again. And if you're arguing with somebody, the same thing's true. You go through this process of talking about mass, going to the mass of Earth, and then when they prove you wrong and tell you that it's 108 years out of date, you talk about gravitational fields that don't exist in Einstein's mathematics. And if you don't understand that they don't exist and Einstein's decrying them, you question whether or not Einstein's declaring that we've got gravitational fields. Then you move on to the actual Einsteinian bent geodesics in space-time, and the nonsense assertions of event horizons and black holes. And then you go on to quantum mechanics. And you get Hawkins giving his two pennyworth with his quote-unquote theories. And as you get ever more convoluted and further away from the entire point of this nonsense magical force, which is to keep you standing on a ball, you get to the end again, like we just did. And you go, whoa, it's maybe unreasonable to even talk about gravity existing as an actual thing, but remember that you can just fall down some stairs or jump off a building. And then you can start again. And it goes on and on and on. Any last comments? Might be a couple more seconds left on this, actually.
It's sort of like there's a description that works pretty well.
You don't go to the doctor and say, Heisenberg uncertainty principle caused a series of fluctuations.
Yeah. I mean, when they were developing semiconductors and developing them into computers, they just worked okay, didn't they? They just kind of worked, and we got on with it because we fall downstairs. Or did they actually work? Oh, they did work. I mean, it's not for the fact that my computer's currently functioning that I'm broadcasting live now or anything. That's it actually being put to work, though, unlike any example that will ever be yielded from the heliocentric model. Because it doesn't have any. There's no practical use for it. Literally none. And gravity, where's that being put to work? Oh, it's not either, is it?
Nathan, what she's saying there is if she fell down the stairs and went to the doctor, she'd say, I can't believe it. I missed those geodesics in space-time.
If it wasn't for the superposition, I might have gone through the double slit differently. I existed both falling down the stairs and not falling down the stairs at the same time with my misapprehensions of quantum mechanics. It's amazing that I didn't take the route of disposition through the double slit and not fall down the stairs. But here I am with a broken leg. Bloody quantum mechanics.
But that's what she's saying. It's still reasonable to save the word gravity. Yeah? Because imagine if you say something to like a fluctuation in quanta. That's what she's alluding to there, that it's still reasonable to keep you, even after all she said, she fell down the stairs, it would be gravity's fault. So she's still clinging on to that concept of a downward force.
Right. Can you help me? So there's so many open questions. The fact that there are all these fundamental issues that we really don't understand.
And we continue and proceed to indoctrinate children with the ideas that we don't understand as being true and real. And all solved and nothing to see here other than answers that we've got for you, child. We know. But in the coffee break room after the fact, we'll sit around smoking cigarettes and contemplating the fact that we don't understand this stuff that we've just lied to children about.
But on the other hand, there's all these moving parts that fit together so neatly. There's
so much beautiful maths that used to work so well before quantum mechanics and computing came along. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just to rebut what that guy said when he said, when you fall down the stairs and hit your head, well, how do you answer that? That's basically what he's saying. He's invoking some kind of a force of attraction between masses. Never in the history of actual science has anyone ever had to account for as a controlled variable gravity. Any version of what they're claiming. Never in the history of the world was that ever part of a controlled variable.
Definitely something that's working here, but ultimately what is going to emerge from that, what structure is lying under it, we just don't know. But I think the fact that there are so many fundamental questions that we just don't know the answer to, that is an opportunity, that's exciting. There are all these fundamental issues that we really don't understand. But on the other hand, there's all of these moving parts that fit together so neatly. There's definitely something that's working here, but ultimately what is going to emerge from that, what structure is lying under it, we just don't know. But
we don't know, but we tell children we do.
I think the fact that there are so many fundamental questions that we just don't know the answer to, that is an opportunity, that's exciting.
So what the opportunity is actually for you to look into it and find out what the answers are. Why have you got the audacity to tell children anything at this stage? If you don't know, you shouldn't be telling the children anything.
It's great.
Thanks so much for coming.
It's not great, it's disgusting.
Thank you.
It's
It was
really
my
good to have you
pleasure.
here.
Thank you very much, John. It was my pleasure.
But when you get to the top of this
I hope you learned
profession,
some.
you realize you know nothing and you accept that it's exciting and an opportunity to realize you know nothing, even though you've been lying to kids all the way and you propagate a lie. The way you justify it is, I know nothing, but that's exciting and an opportunity.
Yeah. So everything you sat in the pub around with the other people pretending to be smart because you were told by your teachers, these people, that you knew something about how the world works in the form of gravity. Yeah. If you went high enough, you'd have the privilege of finding out you didn't know jack. It was all wrong. But you might find out. It's so exciting. And there was some beautiful maths along the way that kind of worked. Meanwhile, quantum mechanics giving us computers. I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, dished out the free memberships, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show, and I'll see you all in the next video.
You know, implying there must be gravity. After spending the whole series of videos was all about how they were throwing all that out the window and they needed to hijack something that has got validity, quantum mechanics, and then stating that is go on, Neil.
Yeah, you can still think of that as gravity.
Why do you think? What I'm saying is, why do you think the common people, the majority of the people, let's say the consensus of people, are not picking up that there's two gravities going on here, and they're switching back and forth?
There's more than two. There's 5 gravities, Neil, and only one of them is validatable through scientific method.
5. I forgot 5.
And maybe more in the future, depending on how many quantum gravities they decide to make up. The point is that for me is the most infuriating point when he said that. It's like, you absolute total and utter liar. You spent all that time throwing all these things out the window because you know they don't work and they're not real and validatable in reality. Then you have the gall and the neck to claim that, but what happens when you fall down the stairs and hurt your leg or you bang your head? What do you blame then? You know what I mean? Employing gravity. It's like the cheek of that, the neck of that. Like, I mean, that one thing. I was considering going in there, leaving a comment. But now I don't know if I will, because it's just like the absolute neck of that guy to say that. After throwing it all out the window, he points back to the thing that was thrown out in the first place. You know, because they won't let it go. They won't let it go. They won't let gravity go. They won't just, it's not real. It's not there. They're saying it can be there and can't be there. Go on, Neil.
They can't let gravity go, Brian. You know that's the reason why we're all standing on Earth and not floating off into space. They can't let it go.
I think information is the killer of gravity. Now, obviously, relative density kills it in the physical world, but I thought about the killer of gravity is information. I reckon the information argument is the killer argument for gravity. That would be my prediction.
It already did. Knowledge of which path is the cause in the experimentation that's lending the validity to all of the applied sciences, if you want, technology that we use today. Well, that's information at its heart, isn't it? So I said this in the live show. We've got to stop getting ahead of ourselves in terms of taking credits for paradigm shifts. The paradigm shifts come about as a result of the applied technology that we're all experiencing. It can't continue forever with people not appreciating that literally the stuff that they're using on a daily basis debunks a worldview that they're also indoctrinated that's come from the church. That's got to end some point. It ended the moment quantum mechanics was validated scientifically. That's the reality. It's the people of course it is, when we're standing on the shoulders of the greats of science just by disseminating their methods to debunk the worldview of the current time. Well, what we actually standing on the shoulders of, the people who've actually applied the scientific method, the people who I always go, those are the real genius, right? They're the people who assume the right cause, and in so doing, advance humanity. Well, because we've got that advancement, specifically with quantum mechanics, we can have this conversation worldwide across the oceans with a lot of cables and a lot of computers. Well, that's marvellous. But that is what's debunking the globe, isn't it, really? It's great talking about navigation and the stuff that's still used to this day. But really, where did it all begin? Where did it all start falling apart at the seams? Well, the layers of nonsense of heliocentrism were doing all right until quantum mechanics came along. Would we not all agree?
No, that's true. But that the problem is the world doesn't know that and understand that. And they're trying to hijack the very thing that debunks them to support them. And my prediction is that we as flat earthers should focus on the information part, as that debunks the origins of their whole story. Their whole story, even though it comes from the Vatican, only involves matter and energy. It does not involve information. You take away their origin story and you take it all away. That's my point.
And that's a great point, Brian.
Thank you, Neil. Appreciate that.
I can't quite believe that learning how to overclock my RAM, which involved learning how RAM works at a very fundamental level, which is more complicated than I could probably disseminate verbally, but I didn't need to ever think that I would put it into verbal. I didn't ever think I'd have to put it into words, right? But today, when it was like, well, how's he describing it? It was like describing that the probability of it being a 1 or a 0 was what could cause a computer to crash. Now, don't get me wrong, there might be someone out in the comments that does know a lot about this and goes, no, you can actually literally have EMP from the sun or some stupid crap change what's stored in memory from being a 1 to being a 0, and that would cause a computer to crash. Now, I'm just going to put that disclaimer out there, notwithstanding that, which I have never, ever had anybody demonstrate. Ignorance is not the excuse. There might be an example that someone can pull up. I just want to put it in there so someone doesn't be a cocky asshole in the comments, right? But for the fact that I'd gone out to learn, why is my RAM crashing? How does it actually work? That I found out that all that's actually occurring is it's like a guy that's guiding cattle into pens, and all of the cattle are either black or white, representative of 1s or 0s. Now, all of the stalls are all painted white to begin with. In other words, if you scan the stall, it's going to come back as white. But then as you shuffle the cows, which is your actual information, into the pens, yeah, what you've got to do is keep the cattle still enough to be red, let's just say. And that involves putting a little bit of electricity into the cow to keep it still, right? Let's just say for the sake of argument, right? Now, if you don't keep it still, it'll escape, right? So all you're doing in RAM is keeping, with a refresh cycle, the electricity pumped to that little bit of, that little cell, that little storage bit for the information to be in. It keeps it powered, so it keeps remembering that it's got a 1 in it. So that when you come and access it again, it's got a 1 in it. Now, for the sake of argument, you don't have enough electricity, like you don't have enough voltage, and it doesn't sustain that cycle of keeping the electricity in the little stall that's got your little cow that's painted black in the stall, then eventually the cow escapes and it's just a painted white stall representative of a 0. So then your computer comes, it reads it and goes, oh, there's a 0 there. But when the CPU accesses what is expecting to get back as a 1, you get a blue screen of death. That's how the computer crashes, right? That's got absolutely sod all to do with quantum mechanics, but he's dropped it in because there is obviously the semiconductor connection in terms of how the silicon itself is functioning to make it seem like the diffraction pattern that he hijacked earlier for his, well, there could be a universe here or there could be a universe there, is a justifiable reason because of his ham-handed description of how crashes are caused in memory because of this idea of superposition. You're like, now, I never dreamt, that's my end point, that learning how, why the hell is my computer crashing? Let's find out how bloody RAM works, as tedious as that is. And it is sodding tedious. How did I ever, I'd never dreamt that that would come into practical use on the show when someone's talking about heliocentrism, in this case gravity, and how it's all nonsense, but obviously comparable to quantum mechanics, like when your computer crashes, because it could be a 1 or it could be a 0. What? That's not right. So yeah, I'll just say a little prayer. Thank you, Jesus, for putting me through the torture of RAM hell, because I could take apart his example for 100 people live. Amen.
Well, it's funny sometimes you learn something at time in your life. At some time in your life, it could be as close to, as what happened with you there, or it could be another time, and you don't know what. Why do I need to learn this? It means nothing to me. Then some years later, you find out why it was important.
Everything with is like that with computers. You buy it. The ideal is, what do I want to do? I want to broadcast on YouTube and play computer games. Okay, so I'll go and buy a computer. What should be the process? I want this. I go and buy a computer. At the end, you press on. There's computer games and streaming. That should be the process. But it never is. Suddenly, you've got to learn about 3 different things. An operating system, how software functions, how the softwares connect together, how streaming works, how your network works. You're suddenly learning about computer things that you didn't give a crap about when you wanted to play your game if you're a kid. Did you ever dream in, as a modern kid, that you'd have to figure out how network services work and streaming data rates? You don't care. You just want to fight things on the screen, right? But you've got to suddenly become a computer expert in things you literally couldn't give a toss about. I don't care about RAM. And it was like that when my computers were selling it. When my parents were selling computers. None of the family cared about any of this stupid nonsense. But you find yourself involved with it for whatever reason, normally because it's not functioning correctly. And by the end of it, you're just like, wow, that was 3 days learning about something that's never going to be useful ever again. But solve one problem that shouldn't be a problem. I'm one step closer to the thing I was hoping to achieve initially.
My son's computer is still down. Bought it almost $2,000. Can't even use it because we don't know what's wrong with it.
And pray to the gods of computers.
No.
We've not got a friendly computer guy.
And take it back.
Everyone needs a Craig.
Well, the screen stretched and never went back to normal, and now he can't play Minecraft. Plain and simple. The hell is that about?
I don't know.
I think I know what happened. He may have spilled water and caused it to grow.
In the game, I hope.
No. He clicked on a free nitro.
I don't know what the problem is. All I know is the screen is stretched, and you can't get it back to the way it was. Therefore, nothing is working.
I'm sorry to hear
Only
that.
a year old.
I'm sure you'll get it figured. You need to find a local friendly computer guy and pay him $50. Or girl.
Yeah, that sounds like a really simple problem.
Yeah. Unless he spilt water in it, then kiss goodbye to whatever it is that's got water on it.
No, that was a joke. I said it stretched and grew.
Are you still there, Adam? Who's got their mic wide open? AI Overlord. Do you want to add something? I presume you do. Go ahead.
I was just talking, the takeaway from that whole thing is that information is a causal force, which is what they wanted to get away from with the Big Bang. Right? And it became atheist wet dream because they now could have a universe that created itself without the need for a precedent mind. But apologists worth their salt quickly recognized that the initial state of the Big Bang required some type of cause that must be extra than the Big Bang, and they quickly deduced that that cause must be eternal, omnipresent, all-powerful, and sentient. So they brushed that under the rug real quick and pursued science with a secular fervor and a materialistic fervor. But like Nathan said, with the advent of technology, they can no longer deny that information and furthermore consciousness is the base unit of reality. And so now they have to integrate that into the synthesis paradigm going forward. And the flat earth is a useful tool, right, to segue that in, shoehorn that in into the new paradigm. Because the new paradigm that some physicists are leaning towards is called subjective idealism. And basically, all reality isn't concrete in a tangible sense as much as it is just an information state perceived by the knower, which again proves the knower in the first instance.
Absolutely correct.
Now you go back, you go all the way back to the beginning where they diverge these two concepts. The reason why they diverge them is because they don't want to accept that the knower is external to reality.
Out of
They want
information
the
without a
knower
knower.
to-
It's back to the ontological process. That was an excellent summary, AI. Excellent. You can't have the starting process without the information unless you've got a knower. That means there is a prerequisite, a requirement for an external entity at the start of it all, because that is the start of it all. The information debunks their paradigm when you look at the Big Bang. So what does he want to do?
So that would
he wants to incorporate the information, but isn't it Heisenberg?
That's what Brian said.
It's Heisenberg that said, I always butcher this quote, but it's something along the lines of, the first sip from natural science will make you an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you.
Correct. So now people don't like that quote because when they get to the bottom of this search, there's an external agent God. So what they're doing with all of the stuff that's going on now is they're shifting the necessity, at least philosophically, for an external agent. And they're making the knower internal to the universe. So in one sense, you have a God which creates everything. And in the other sense, the creation and the creator are the same. And those are the two different paradigms. And of course, they want the paradigm to always be denying an external agent, creator, God that they're responsible to, because it's horrifying to them. And they've admitted as much in all of their, segues where there was a fork in the road in these quote unquote scientific endeavors. And they had a choice to make. Should I go pursue this conclusion or that conclusion? They always pick the conclusion, right? By saying, oh, we're not special. The idea that we're in the center of the universe is horrifying. The idea that we're a special creation is horrifying. And they always had these philosophical choices. And today, with the battle between globe earth, flat earth, whatever, it's still the same fundamental battle.
Well,
in other words, all of these
what I
things
say-
are just ultimately metaphysical claims in their underpinnings.
But if you look at what their actual beginning point is, their beginning point is the expansion of matter and energy, right? There's no creation point for this matter and energy, only an expansion point. So the initial matter and energy wasn't created. They start with that. So they start with matter and energy, which excludes information. They exclude the information within their claims. But they start with matter and energy already created. So it's like the joke, get your own dirt. It's kind of like that. It's like they can't start without matter and energy already existing. And the fact that they do start with matter and energy already existing is not just a delta X situation, because they don't have the X, but their expansion of matter and energy excludes information. There's no way around it for them. They can try and pull the same trick over and over again by keeping the public confused, but there's no way to deny it.
Yeah.
Those that know.
Right, and this is where the concept of the prime mover came from. So they had this state, right, of non-motion, and then they went into a state of motion, and they have, make no mistake about it, no explanation for a causal mechanism of what causes motion in the first instance. They don't even have a thought They don't even have a proposition. They don't even have a guess. Yet we have this chick admitting that information itself is a causal agent in three-dimensional space. So by her own admission, she solved the problem of the prime mover, right? So then you have to say, okay, information begs a mind. So now we are back at the mind. And now we have a decision to make. Is that mind an external agent, or is it just us in aggregate, like an overmind in the monistic sense? And rest assured, most people will not pick the external agent because they don't like that concept.
Well, I summed up that last video there as just basically the summing up of all of the videos. The point they got to was it's all relative because it's not relative. In other words, they have to throw relativity out the window while also claiming relativity. So it's the whole claim is a contradiction. And it's all based on the expansion of matter and energy without having a creation point for that matter and energy, and the exclusion of information that they need to relay their claim from comparison. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, you take the concept of superposition, like they're talking about, and you move it into the realm of information and into the realm of the mind, and you invent what's called a super proposition. Right, so we know, like, the law of non-contradiction and the law of the excluded middle and logic, like we talked about the other day. What they're essentially saying is that a thing can be itself and not itself simultaneously, and that creates a third self. So, like in his cow example that Nathan gave, you have white and black cows, but if they're going too fast, all you see is gray. So what they're doing is they're reifying the gray into an infinite possibility, a field of pure possibility. Where have we heard that before?
Ethereans.
Right. And not every Ethereum believes this, but the ether theory brings God down from being an external agent as just a user within the universe in which we exist, rather than being the source of it. He's just within it. And again, you have the same problem. Philosophically, you have to choose, where does the mind come from? Is it external or internal? And if you say it's internal, then you're basically deifying yourself, which is why they call it monism, because all is God, God is all is one, one is all.
But they want you to live inside your mind and to believe that basically anything is possible simply because you can imagine it to be. And that is your reality, what you imagine. You know,
Right,
it's kind
and
of
if
like
that's the truth, if it's the truth that you through the power of your mind alone, which by the way isn't physical, are the creator of reality, reduce that statement. You are the creator of reality. I'm the creator. I'm God.
Yeah, a brain in a jar that creates this reality.
They're not a brain in a jar, and disembodied mind creates subsequent reality.
But within they have to see it as a brain in a jar because they are materialists. They don't have information.
Right, that's what
they can't.
They're going to get rid of materialism. Here's how this is going to go. They're going to use the past couple hundred years of quote-unquote scientific endeavor to arrive at the scientifically validated conclusion, so-called, that they have proven not only that materialism is false and that God most certainly exists as the creator of reality, but that God that they just mentioned and arrive at scientifically is actually you, yourself.
Yeah.
And mic's coming kind of harsh, AI.
Yeah, just speak quietly because your mic's super, super sensitive, whatever you're on.
Yeah, I just want to say that what he's saying is correct, but it's contradictory for them because the mind, which is the knower, because you need the mind is the knower. That can't exist within their paradigm. Information didn't expand within their paradigm to create that paradigm. Matter and energy, which they have no origin point for, expanded. So them talking about the mind or trying to somehow weasel in how you are your own creator, that would be still involving a creator, and it still involve a mind and a knower, something that's not part of their paradigm. They don't have anything outside matter and energy that they don't have an origin point for. They don't have information. So it's like they're just trying to hijack information. That's basically what they're trying to do. Because they're creative losers. They have no backbone. They won't just admit this is all rubbish.
Alrighty then.
Well, they got nowhere to go. So,
well,
it's just deeper into delusion, making it more difficult for people to figure it out that are already invested into it. While those that have started to see through it, they drop off. And that's gradually creating a shift. I mean, I think that a lot of people in the world, even despite whether they might still be hanging on the earth being a ball, they still don't believe like these people. Or maybe they get into it a bit, but they're still going to figure out like there's something wrong with it. We can't really trust this. I mean, how long can this last,
Well, as long as they can keep the people's imaginations locked into what their paradigm, because that's what they're doing. If you look at the video we just covered there, it was all the whole of the last video there was all, or the last section of that whole series of videos was all based around your imagination becoming part of their paradigm. They're literally poisoning your imagination, and that's what they're doing. It's like, like when they show in some movies, like the Matrix type movies, where they have all these electronic, tiny little micro electronic or macro electronic things that invade something, the mind or whatever, right? That's what they're doing. They're invading your imagination. They're poisoning it. And the whole point of doing it is that they're taking control of your imagination.
You're literally programming. And that's even in the Matrix, and that is programmed. It's a program slipping in, taking over.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you look up in the sky and you think NASA, you think space movies. That's what you think.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? Because and then you imagine
what you've been associating with it because of their programming. So that's what comes up in your mind, and then you think it's yours. You might even think that you're the one that came up with that.
Well, you're imagining it from that starting point, aren't you? Your starting point is this nonsense. That's your starting point. And they try and they go out, attack this in several different directions. They're willing to go down conspiracy theory type roads where they'll bring in aliens and other things like that. Anything that keeps the imagination locked into when you look up in the sky, you think NASA, you think moon landings. Do you know what I mean? That's what they want you to. That's where they want you to be. That's what they want they want your imagination chained to that. And you don't realize that the chain that keeps your imagination attached to that, you can actually unlock. But you don't try and unlock it because you don't realize there's a chain.
Right, programming. So they give you what they want you to think about. That's programming.
Yeah.
In a way, we try to do that ourselves, except that we give reason behind the programming that we dispense. So that is based within logic and reasoning, and not just like, this is what you have to believe. And that's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, we can use imagination too. but we can actually use actual physics as part of that imagination.
Right. So the imagination can be grounded within physical proven reality. That's the difference. While they, on purpose, try to sever that link.
Yeah,
as much as they can. They try to sever that link within their information that they dispense.
Yeah, they're trying to bring in pseudo physics into the imagination zone. And when you bring pseudo physics into it, then what are you imagining? You know, they're creating like Nathan is 100% correct when he uses the example of Narnia, right? Or Oz, but Narnia is better because they're turning your imagination into a mathematical paradigm that they have created, and they're adding pseudo physics in there, and you start accepting pseudo physics and then you add pseudo physics that comes from them into your imagination, and before you know it, your imagination is a mathematical thing. You don't understand the math of.
That's right. It slipped in there. That's programming, right? They try to play on the intuition to just immediately go ahead with the step without pondering or choosing it consciously. So you just go as a reflex. That's the real deep programming. Deep programming, not deprogramming. Right. But that's like the cult mechanism. That's where they want, that's when you pile it on. It's not just a program, it's real programming.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're locking you into a paradigm that you don't realize is that you're being locked into. The They Live was brilliant. That scene in go on.
Yep.
I think someone wants to say something from Discord.
No, I don't think so.
No. But They Live, the scene in They Live, where the Roddy Piper and Keith David, the two actors, had a fight because Keith David would not put on the sunglasses. Didn't want to know. Roddy Piper had to fight him and fight him and fight him. It was an epic fight, a screen fight, to get him to put on the glasses. Like that sums it all up, because that's what you have to do with people around you, whether your friends, family, anything, people you know, people you're only meeting. That's what you have to do to get them to see it's total rubbish, because their imaginations are already locked in. That's like why Neil's grandchild told Neil a couple of years ago, no, it's a ball, or it's round, and space is real. They've already locked in their version of what that child will imagine. Now, I'm not saying the child will keep that for the rest will keep that paradigm for the rest of the child's days, but the fact that they've already done that early, because Neil's grandchild can't be that old. Has to be a little child. They've already done it. So when that child gets older, if the child continues on that road, what are you going to have to do to get the child to see, no, it's false, not real? There's a guy who...
You got to be there in time, to really tackle that. Like, I never went through like more aggressive, more peer pressure based conditioning concerning the globe. I did get it in school, but my parents would take notice if I got really upset, because I liked the idea, but I was just free thinking. And then if they would restrict me somehow, I'd get really upset. And so they did protect me. Well, if you don't give that kind of protection to your kid because you don't think you know well enough, well, then the kid's going to get the full-blown conditioning. And I didn't, I was lucky enough to not get that far because my parents protected me. But hey, if your parents don't know, they don't know either way, well, it's just going to happen then.
Yeah, well, I have to say within my family and my father, like in a drop of a hat, we challenge authority. As in
that's
he challenged
problematic.
contradiction and stuff like that. So I got to see that within my family, that people around me would challenge false statements and stuff like that, challenge authority. But people have it in their mind, and I hate to break it down when there's new out there, but people have it in their mind that just because someone has an education and a career, that they can't be a lawyer. That is completely false. I've had 8 years of this part of this arena, and I've run into so many people that could prove they had a career, but were completely fraudulent. They were lying. There was no if, buts, or maybes about it. These people are willing to lie. And it's not all cognitive dissonance or trying to hold on to a paradigm. Some of these people are just straight out liars. There's been proof through history that people had to be tortured before they admitted the truth. Now, why would someone need to be tortured before they admit the truth of something? Why would someone need to physically be tortured before they admit the truth? What's going on in that person's mentality that they'll go to that extreme before they'll admit the truth? It's not all cognitive dissonance. It's not all holding on to a paradigm. There's people out there who are just liars, regardless of their education or their career.
That's not making a case, though.
Sorry,
but just being a liar is not a reason why you're going to endure torture just to prevent saying the truth.
Well,
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but it does, because it's people who are deceivers in the world and will deceive people around them. They will go to all kinds of ends not to have to admit that they're deceivers, because their power is keeping people in the mindset that they might be incorrect or wrong.
Because it's worth it, because they have a following, and if they uphold the story as true, then their following will see it as a martyrdom. It's not mechanical effect.
Well, if they hold on to it, but the thing about it is, if they hold on to what they're claiming to be the truth, and they get to the point of being tortured before they admit it, if people can decide before they get to that extreme, well, this person must be telling the truth because they wouldn't allow it to go this far if they weren't. That's what they're working off of. So there's people out there who are willing to get to the point of, and this is history, in history, getting their limbs almost cut off before they told the truth. Right? That's how far they're willing to go. They're willing to push it that far because they want to keep you fooled. And don't ever think that these people aren't existing and these people aren't out there, because they are.
Right, but it is because of a martyrdom effect. Because if you don't know that it's a trickery, then it's like, wow, to you it might seem like that guy's gone through all that just to protect the truth that he saw. It will actually enforce the lie into those that don't understand. So, yeah, it's just how it works.
I have a guy who was about to get removed from my channel, who's a 30-year aerospace engineer, according to him. Now, I looked onto his channel. His channel seems to be a legit channel on YouTube. He doesn't have loads of subscribers. But I don't know what many he has, but he's been around. His channel is old. He has stuff up there about himself, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I just, rather than trying to argue about whether he is or not, I just take it at face value that he is. He seems to have some information. So I don't care. He seems to, at face value, to be a 30-year aerospace engineer. This guy has told me blatant lies that have called him on. And when I've asked him to produce pitch data for airplane pitch data to support these claims, he will not address it. Now that, you can't tell me that's someone who's in cognitive dissonance. That's a liar. That's a 30-year aerospace engineer liar. That's what that is. I don't want to hear about cognitive dissonance. That's what the person at home next to you is suffering from. That's what the person on the street is suffering from. Not a 30-year aerospace engineer. That person knows better. And when they were asked to produce pitch data they won't address it. Why won't they address it? Because that person knows they're lying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right then. With that, I'll say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!